Sonic fan games, a topic that this channel is no stranger to, and something that we've talked about on several occasions. Sonic fan games come in many shapes and sizes. Whether it's an homage to the classic titles of Sonic or a brand new 3D experience, there are many fan games for Sonic the Hedgehog from all types of people. But with such a wild amount of variety, it can be quite a challenge to find fan games that go above and beyond. And I even tried to tackle this very issue by creating a massive collection of the top fan games that I dubbed the Sonic Mega Fan Collection. But what's really insane is that massive 2-hour video compiling these titles still barely scratched the surface, and I missed out on a ton of other top projects. So with that being the case, I thought let's have at it again and make a brand new collection of even more top Sonic fan games. And that's what this video is all about. So sit back, relax, and get ready to spin dash, because today we're tackling the Sonic Mega Fan Collection Plus. Okay everyone, before we hop straight into this, I'm going to lay down the ground rules for how this video is going to work. Now, like I already stated earlier in this video, we've already gone over the top Sonic fan games in the Sonic Mega Fan Collection. And if you want to check that video out, it'll be down in the description below, the end of the video, or in the top right corner. With that said, that video was split up into 4 different sections, and this video will be split up as well, with each game having to meet certain criteria to be a part of each segment. Second off, each entry is in no particular order, so we're not going from best to worst, it's just a general showcase of a bunch of amazing projects. And finally, it's important to keep in mind that there very well might be a fan game that might not be a part of this list. That doesn't mean I don't think it's good or doesn't deserve to be on this list, that most likely means I didn't know it existed or wasn't able to make it a part of the video. So with all that said, let's not waste any more time and hop into our very first segment. Alright everyone, let's start things off right by hopping into our very first major segment. That being the top 2D Sonic fan games. Now each game in this list will have to meet 3 different criteria in order to be a part of this segment. First off, games in this segment will have to either be fully completed, near fully completed, and or offer a standout experience. Second off, games have to have refined physics and mechanics and have to play fairly well. And finally, these games have to look high quality, both in their graphics and their musical representations. Something akin to official titles, so it can't look like an old Flash game from the early 2000s. Oh, and on a final note, for anyone that might be wondering, unlike the original video where the 2D segment was mainly dedicated to finished projects, this video will have a bit of a combination of projects that are finished and that are not finished, and I'll make sure to preface which ones they are as we go through. So, with all that said, let's not waste any more time and hop into our very first entry. That being Sonic Color Cursed. Now this fan game released during CGS of 2021 by none other than Stardrop, the same developer team that was actually responsible for Sonic and the Fallen Star and Sonic and the Moon Facility. And Sonic Color Cursed is amazing! This entire game has an entire 1-bit art style, where Dr. Eggman is up to his antics again, and he actually has stolen all the color from the planet. And now, it's up to Sonic and his pals to put a stop to Eggman's newest plan, and return the stolen colors back to the world. Now right off the bat, this setup is really unique, and I've never seen a fan game take this approach before, not only in its art style, but its general storytelling, and I really love it. On top of this, the game actually feels amazing to play with. Sonic has his iconic drop dash, his spin dash, and has amazing weight and control. And on top of that, the level design is also really fun to play through, with there being many different paths you can take, cool gimmicks you can face off against, enemies you can destroy, and plenty of opportunities to blast through with amazing Sonic speed. The game also features 2 unique boss fights, one being against Fang, and the other being against Eggman in a crab mech, both of which aren't the hardest thing in the world, but still fun to fight nonetheless. The game also has an amazing soundtrack and sound effects, and has 2 acts to run through. And as an overall package, this game is awesome! And once you do run through the entire game and beat it, the game offers you an amazing reward. That being to play through the entire game with a proper color palette. The contrast between playing in black and white and playing with a proper color palette is insane, and it really goes to show how amazing the sprite work is in this title. And the fact that this is the final reward for playing through the demo is just a stellar idea. It makes the game feel fresh and makes you want to play through the whole game all over again to see the difference between the black and white version and the color version. Now, it shouldn't be noted that this is a demo, and a relatively short demo at that, with again there only being 2 acts that, once you know what to do, are really easy to run through. On top of this, it's actually been quite a minute since we've actually had an update on Sonic Color Cursed, with their last update coming from their YouTube channel, which showcased the save select in Sonic Color Cursed. And since then, this game's actually been relatively silent. Hopefully one day, Sonic Color Cursed will make a full-blown comeback and see full release sometime soon. Because honestly, this has to be one of the coolest, most unique stylized games I have ever seen. And I think there's a lot of amazing potential with Sonic Color Cursed. So if you're looking for another amazing title by the Star Drop team, and you love games like Sonic and the Fallen Star and Moon Facility, then Sonic Color Cursed is an amazing title to hop into, that more than deserves some love and praise. And who knows, maybe with enough exposure, Sonic Color Cursed might end up making a major comeback. And I really hope that happens. Alright, next up is an entry that I hold very near and dear to my heart, as it's actually the very first Sonic fan game that I ever played. That being Sonic Metal Adventure. This game is being developed by Blue Dev Stuff, and it saw its latest and final release during Sage of 2018. Now this game effectively was a 2D style modern Sonic adventure experience, and the demo had quite a bit to it to play through. Not only did the game feature 4 levels to experience, but it also featured 2 different characters, being Sonic and Metal Sonic, both of which feeling very different to control with their own unique mechanics. Now Sonic himself feels great. He has great weight, he has the ability to boost and wall jump, and I love the way he plays. And Metal Sonic feels a whole lot faster with an even quicker wall jump and a faster boost. And graphically speaking, Sonic Metal Adventure looks amazing. It has beautiful animations, amazing backgrounds, great sprite work, and again, this was the very first fan game I ever played, so this is pretty nostalgic for me. The levels you run through are pretty fun and pretty wide range and variety. For example, one of the stages is actually an entire tornado level where you're shooting down baddies, avoiding enemies. There's another one that actually features you in a special stage while riding a cool little surfboard while boosting all over the place, which isn't all too challenging but still shows a cool idea. And there's 2 main stages to run through, that being Blue Coast and Rail Pyramid, both of which are very fun that have some great level design behind them. Now this demo isn't all that long. You can easily run through the entire demo using both characters in maybe about 15 to 20 minutes. There really isn't a whole lot here, but what there is still a blast to play through. And again, this was my introduction to Sonic fan games, so it holds a special place in my heart regardless if it's short. Now sadly, this game did end up getting cancelled back in 2020, where Blue Dev Stuff actually announced that he didn't really have any interest in developing the game, let alone having any interest in Sonic overall, which is a definite shame. However, Blue Dev Stuff did pull a complete Chad move and actually released the entire source code for Sonic Metal Adventure. So if anyone ever actually wanted to revive this project, you're actually more than able to, and that's amazing. So who knows, maybe one of you might actually pick up this project again and continue its development, letting it blossom into a full-blown amazing experience. And I honestly hope that that happens one day. But regardless whether it does or doesn't, I'm more than happy that we got this amazing demo to play through, and I will always hold Sonic Metal Adventure in high regard as being the Sonic fan game that introduced me to the world of fan projects. And for that alone makes it, at least to me, one of the best Sonic fan games ever made. Okay, our next entry is a title that is actually a remake of several Sonic bootleg games, known as Sonic the Hedgehog Blasting Adventure. This is a fan game that was created by Gustavo, and it saw its latest release back in 2020. And like I already said, this is actually a remake of several bootleg Sonic games all wrapped up into one package. Specifically, Sonic 3D Blast 5, Sonic Adventure 7, and Sonic Adventure 8. All of which were very poorly made and don't even come close to a genuine Sonic experience. But thankfully, the remake that combines all these games into one more than makes up for that and actually turns these low-quality experiences into an absolutely fun playthrough. Now, graphically speaking, this game is actually styled off of the old 8-bit Sonic titles that were found during the Game Gear and Sega Master System era. And on top of this remake comes with a whole new set of songs and sound effects, and comes with an array of different levels to play through. This remake also brings a slew of new boss fights to take on, as well as a few other additional features, like several playable characters, like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, all of which feel and play very similar to their old 8-bit counterparts found on the Game Gear, so suffice it to say, they feel amazing to play. Also, the game's sprite work and animations are all solid and look great, and the levels themselves are very fun to run through. They might not be the most intensive thing in the world, but with this game being based off the old 8-bit Sonic titles, I think the level design is fairly solid. And it also offers an array of different gimmicks and enemies to take on, and you'll have a pretty good amount of fun running through them. Now, as awesome as all this is, it should be noted that this game is fairly short. You can easily knock out this title within about 15 odd minutes or so. The fact that Gustavo and their team took the time to remake these old bad bootlegs and made them into an actual full-blown fun experience that feels just like a real Sega title is just astounding and should be definitely praised. So if you're looking for an 8-bit style Sonic game to play through, or if you're a fan of the old Game Gear Sonic titles or Master System titles like Sonic Triple Trouble or Sonic Chaos, then I honestly believe Sonic Blasting Adventure is more than worth your time, and you'll have a blast playing through it. Alright, our next entry is a fan game styled after the old Genesis titles, but one that also offers a really interesting story. That being Sonic Project Survival. Now, this fan game was being created by Team Survival, and it saw its latest demo released back during Sage of 2016. Now, this demo came with one level to play through that featured 3 different acts, as well as an explorable hub world, and it really showed a whole lot of promise. But before we get into gameplay, let's first focus on the story. The story begins when an island mysteriously appears out of nowhere, and Dr. Eggman decides to launch an investigation on this new island. Now, during his exploration, he ends up finding a lost civilization that had gone corrupt due to the power found in a new line of species known as super animals that actually inhabit the area. When the Doctor finds this out, he creates a new scheme to use the power of these animals to create super-powered badniks. And now it's up to Sonic and his friends to put a stop to the Doctor's newest plan and save these mystical creatures from certain doom. Now, right off the bat, this story sounds awesome and really interesting, and it could have been really cool to explore the whole idea of super badniks and super animals, as well as see how this civilization could have gone corrupt. But that's not the only thing that's awesome. First off, the graphics of this game are amazing. The sprite work and animations are solid, and the game features an array of beautiful and vivid colors. And on top of this, the music is also top-notch, with the demo featuring some absolutely fire beats. And as far as gameplay is concerned, it is just as good. The level design is fantastic, with an array of different pathways you can take and enemies to defeat, with there also being plenty of opportunities to go blazing with speed. And Sonic himself feels fantastic to use, with the same weight and general feel and control as the OG Genesis titles. And the game's hub world is also a really nice addition that allows the player to talk with Knuckles and Tails. And overall, this is just a really fun and solid demo. However, as amazing as this demo may be, it sadly did end up getting cancelled sometime during development. For one reason or another, Sonic Project Survival would end up going completely dark and apparently got cancelled behind the scenes during its development. And to make things even worse, the demo actually ends with a massive cliffhanger with Sonic running into what looks like the general silhouette of Dr. Eggman and his new Super Badnik, and it looks like it could have been an awesome boss fight. Now yeah, it's definitely a huge shame that this game did end up getting cancelled, but at least we got this amazing demo to run through, and thanks to this demo, it helps show the true potential that this title had. And who knows, maybe if we're lucky, maybe Team Survival will end up coming back and reviving this old project. Or maybe someone else can pick up the mantle and continue where the original team left off. And I really hope this happens one day, because between Project Survival's story, animations, gameplay, and level design, I truly think that Project Survival could have became another top-tier Sonic fan game, like Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit or Sonic and the Fallen Star. So with all that said, If you're looking to play what could have been one of the best Sonic fan games ever made, or if you're wanting to play an awesome Genesis-style Sonic game, then please give Sonic Project Survival a shot, because it's more than worth your time. Well everyone, our next entry is on a title that Sonic Advance players will love. And the game in question? Sonic Gameland. This is a fan game being created by Valve, and it saw its final demo released back in 2021. Now this title features 5 playable characters, being Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Virtual Sonic, all of which come with their own abilities, and they all feel amazing to use. It also comes with 4 different stages to play through, and 4 modes to experience. And to add icing to the cake, this fan game even comes with the added function of local multiplayer, which means that you can actually play along with 2 other friends. Now, as I'm sure you can already tell, this game is styled after the Sonic Advance series, but it also comes with a very flashy UI as well as solid animations and backgrounds. So overall, the game, graphically speaking, looks fantastic. And as far as the music is concerned, it is also solid as all heck, with the music that's featured in the demo being very high energy that fits the theme of the stages perfectly. And speaking of the stages, the levels you can run through are all really fun to experience, with it offering many different areas to blaze through, many areas to explore, baddies to take on. Just overall, the stages found in Sonic Gameland are awesome. Heck, there's even a boss fight in this fan game that offers a pretty fun little challenge, which is also really cool. Now, between the ability to play multiplayer with your friends and verse each other in races and or battles, as well as the ability to play different game modes like Time Attack and Story Mode, you'll get some decent playtime out of Sonic Gameland, which is awesome. But as great as all this is, it actually has been quite a good minute since the last demo of this game actually released. And according to the most recent update from Valve, it seems that this will be the final version of Sonic Gameland and there will be no more updates in the future, which is pretty sad to hear. But even if that is the case, what we have here is still fantastic. So if you're a fan of the advanced titles or if you're looking for a game to play along with your friends, then Sonic Gameland is a perfect experience to hop right into. I truly think that this is a fantastic game that I'm sure you'll have a great time playing. Okay everyone, we're hopping back over with another Genesis-styled fan game, and that title is Sonic Uprising. This game was being developed by Team Giga Drive, and it saw its last demo released back in 2020. This game sought to reboot the canon story of Sega's previous major title, being Sonic Forces, and the story is somewhat similar to that title. After years of battling, the unthinkable finally happens. Sonic the Hedgehog loses to the Doctor due to Eggman discovering a brand new way to exploit chaos energy. And with this new energy, he creates a bigger and better army and ends up taking over the entire world. Now, 6 months after this, the Doctor has created his newest and most dangerous device ever, that being the robotization chamber, which can turn organic matter into robotic equivalents. And with this new threat, Sonic returns to pick up the pieces and save his friends and regain the emeralds and put a stop to Eggman's rule once and for all. Now, right off the bat, this story sounds super intense, and honestly a lot better than what Sonic Forces was trying to offer. I also really like the idea of robotization, which is something that was actually introduced back into the Saturday morning cartoon for Sonic the Hedgehog, being implemented here in the story. It's a really good touch. First and foremost, the sprite work featured here is just stellar, with an array of in-depth sprite work, beautiful effects, backgrounds, and amazing colors, and it truly gives Sonic Uprising a one-of-a-kind feel. And the music that accompanies the demo and the levels is also top quality and high energy. And as far as gameplay is concerned, Sonic and all the other characters found in this demo, like Amy, Shadow, Knuckles, and Mighty, all feel fantastic to use, with each of them having their own unique abilities. And with there actually being 6 different zones to run through, each of them with their own unique personalities and gimmicks, this demo is actually a fair decent length, ranging anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of gameplay time to complete. And overall, the work that's been done here is just phenomenal. Sonic Uprising truly is one of the best Sonic fan games ever made that had so much going for it. Between its amazing story, the gameplay, the characters, the level design, all of it, it just had all the markings of becoming another top-tier Sonic fan game, similar to Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit and Sonic and the Fallen Star. But sadly, as awesome as all this is, it did end up going on a permanent hiatus between 2022 and 2023. And it's been a very long time since we've heard any more updates on the project. So it actually seems very likely that this game might have actually been cancelled. And that really is an honest shame. I mean, if you go over to their Twitter and or their Discord and take a look at the actual updates on their development, what they had was amazing. They were planning things like custom cutscenes and adding Supersonic and so much more. The potential here was boundless. And again, for all intents and purposes, this game was definitely on track to become another top-tier Sonic fan game. And though I'm very thankful that we still got this fantastic demo, I truly hope that one day we'll get to see the full completion of Sonic Uprising. Alright everyone, we got another Sonic Advance style fan game that has a whole lot to offer. And that game is Sonic Auxiliary. This is a title that was being created by Giga6152, and it's on its final release on August of 2020. Now, Sonic Auxiliary is a pretty intense fan game. Not only do you have a massive cast of characters to play as, but there's also tons of additional content packed into it, like special stages, super forms, bosses, and more. But I'm getting too far ahead of myself. First off, graphically speaking, this game looks just like the Advance series, so the sprite work, backgrounds, and animation are all top-notch. And the soundtrack that's here is also pretty good. This demo features one full playable zone that has 2 acts to play through and 2 bosses to take on. And it has some pretty solid level design and stage transitions, and overall it's very well constructed. There's also a full-blown ranking system that encourages the player to get better and better at the stages and learn their layouts and get better with the reaction times. And there is a pretty decent skill ceiling for all the characters, especially since that there's a wide variety of different play styles. And speaking of characters, like I mentioned, there is a bunch of them. You have characters like the classic trio, so there's Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, all of which have their signature abilities, like being able to boost, fly, and glide. But on top of that, you also have Mighty, Blaze, Silver, Shadow, Rouge, Omega, and even Espio, with each of them playing and feeling very different, and each of them having their own unique gimmicks and gameplay styles. The game also has some secrets to find, like medals you can collect via exploration, as well as other things you can unlock, like the super forms for Sonic, Shadow, and Blaze, all of which are super OP and shred through the levels like nobody's business. And as a total package, Sonic Auxiliary is just fantastic. It's a fast-paced and highly energetic experience that genuinely feels like an evolution of the Sonic Advance playstyle, that combines elements found in those titles as well as from the Rush games. And I would honestly love to see more official titles play like Sonic Auxiliary. It is just that good. Now, yes, it should be noted that this demo is fairly short, since there is only one functional act. But if you were to play that one zone with every character and get all the bonus content in the game, like all the medals and unlock the super forms, there's a solid 30 to 45 minutes of playtime here in this title, which is amazing. Now, obviously there's still a lot of content missing here, since a lot of the stages aren't even fully playable, since originally, Sonic Auxiliary was going to be a far larger experience. But the developer decided to make this demo the final version of the project, and he ended development, which is rather unfortunate. But even if that is the case, this demo is more than worth playing. So if you're a fan of the Rush games and or Advance series, and you want to play an extremely wide cast of characters, and what has to be one of the best controlling, fast-paced Sonic fan games I have ever played, then I would definitely say Sonic Auxiliary is the game for you. Okay y'all, our next entry is one that could easily fit right in with the classic lineup. A game called Sonic Neo Genesis. This title was being created by Team Emerald, and it saw its last demo launch all the way back in 2016. Now, story-wise, this title takes place right after the events of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where Eggman has managed to swipe a Chaos Emerald for himself and escape the pursuit of Sonic and Co. However, during his escape, he comes across an uncharted island, and upon closer inspection, the emerald in his possession glows wildly, and he soon discovers he has landed on Miracle Island, a place that houses the gateway to the Infinite Plane, also known as the birthplace of the Chaos Emeralds. Now, it's up to Sonic and his pals to stop Eggman from getting to the Infinity Plane, because if he gets to it, who knows what havoc he can cause. Now with all that said, first and foremost, this story is bloody awesome! Exploring the origins of the Chaos Emeralds and finding their place of creation, that's pretty major. And to back up this dope story is some fire gameplay as well. Sonic feels fantastic with all the same controls as the Sega official titles, but you may soon notice right at the start that Sonic doesn't have his full arsenal. Like the spin dash, it's actually completely missing. That's because you actually have to find these tokens which unlock abilities related to him, which creates a massive incentive for exploration. The stages themselves look and play beautifully, with the game having a gorgeous sprite style with an array of fantastic and well-detailed and colorful animations and backgrounds. That's not even to mention that this title has in-game cutscenes and an absolutely fire soundtrack that is just a damn joy to vibe to. And as far as the actual level design goes, it is top-notch. Each zone is vastly different with awesome gimmicks and a wide range of paths you can take with tons of opportunities to explore. And these stages are just amazing. There are also some boss fights that you can verse off against, which are all a blast to take on and all offer a fair challenge. And as a whole, this demo is actually kinda lengthy, with gameplay ranging between 20 to 30 minutes, which is insane for a demo. This is the type of 2D Sonic game I could easily see on the Sega Saturn, and I would kill to play this on real hardware. This game is just so damn good! But I do need to back things down for just a second, because an update actually came out on the game's development that's actually pretty upsetting. According to an update from Team Emerald, the lead programmer actually passed away, and due to some really bad things going down behind the scenes, all this led to the entire project coming to a screeching halt. Now, for anyone that might be asking what actually happened with the dev team, I'm not sure, nor am I going to pry into their personal affairs. I'm only sharing what's been made public. With that said though, since this update, the project has gone totally dark, and no more updates have ever been released. The update does mention a chance of bringing the project back, however, only time will tell if that actually comes to pass. Overall, Sonic Neo Genesis is a beautiful title that the dev team should be proud of, and that deserves to be praised. It's a fun, beautiful, and exciting playthrough that had the potential of becoming one of the greatest fan games of all time. And I truly hope for the best for the dev team, and hope to see their beautiful game reach its full glory. But even if that doesn't happen, I'm more than happy with the ability to play the demo of this marvelous title. Okay, our next entry is actually a triple whammy, as it's a series of 3 different games, specifically the Sonic SMS Remake series. That's right, there's actually an entire series of games made by fans that remade the old Sega Master System titles, specifically Sonic 1 on the Master System, which released back in 1991, Sonic 2, which released back in 1992, and Sonic Chaos and Triple Trouble being combined together, which both of these titles released in 1993 and 1994. All these games were remade into 3 titles, being Sonic 1 SMS Remake, Sonic 2 SMS Remake, and finally, Sonic 3 SMS Remake Timelines. Now, all 3 of these remakes were developed by Creative Araya, with the latest version of all 3 titles releasing back in 2023. And oh boy, these titles are amazing! All of them are stylized after the old Sega Master System titles, but now with brand new sprites and animations, as well as some brand new music. Now, with there being 3 different games in this series, we're going to focus on each one individually. So first, let's focus on the remake of Sonic SMS 1. This title comes with an array of different game modes to play with. There's a time attack, encore mode, competition mode with multiplayer, boss rush, and of course a main story mode. And it has a grand total of 5 different characters to play with, each one with their own unique abilities. Those characters being Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Mighty and Ray. And on top of that, there are over 9 stages to run through, and each of these stages come with their own boss fight to engage with, which offer a fun challenge. And all the levels featured here have great level design, with many different paths you can take and areas you can explore. You can even go and hunt down special stages in order to unlock the Chaos Emeralds, which will lead you to get the ability to turn super, which is an awesome reward. And surprisingly, this game is actually fairly beefy and it's fully completed, with a runtime anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour if you're only doing the main story. That's not including anything more you can do, like again the multiplayer, time attack, or encore mode. So you can actually sink hours into this title, which is insane. Honestly, this remake is genuinely the definitive way to experience Sonic 1 on the Master System, and actually even has more features than Sonic 1 on the Genesis. And aside from the 8-bit aesthetic, This remake genuinely rivals the Sega official version on the Genesis. And the crazy part is that this is only one game out of the series. There's also the remake of Sonic 2 SMS, which, just like the first, comes with an array of awesome features. It also plays and controls just as good as the first game, but now comes with even more characters to play as well as a brand new team system. You can play with Sonic and Tails, Shadow and Metal Sonic, Amy and Knuckles, Mighty and Ray, and even Espio and Vector. And all these teams have their own unique abilities, which is amazing. And the second game even has more zones to play through, with there being a grand total of 10 different zones to explore. Each zone again is extremely well designed and fun to run through, and again have unique boss fights to all take on, which all offer a great challenge. Of course, you can also collect all the Chaos Emeralds to turn into super forms, but to make things even better, this remake also has the ability to unlock hyper forms, which are insane to use and look amazing. Overall, just like the first game, this fan remake of Sonic SMS 2 is genuinely the definitive way to experience this title, and there's just so much packed in here, it's fantastic. You can easily sink hours into this game, especially since there are a bunch of modes just like the first one, like Encore Mode again, Boss Rush, Time Attack, and again, Competition Multiplayer. But there's even additional things to do, like find red star rings, or play through a pacifist mode where you're not supposed to destroy any badniks or monitors, or you can enter panic egg mode, which leaves you with no rings or monitors. So it's like hardcore mode. There's just so much here. And to top it all off, there's already a third game currently in development, with a demo being available right now. The third installment of this series adds additional characters like Blaze and Silver. And currently, the latest demo has several zones to run through and a new set of special stages to engage with. And it already shows an insane amount of potential. And with the previous titles already being so great, I have no doubt that the third installment will be just as good, if not better. Suffice it to say, all three of these titles are beyond fantastic. And for anyone that loves the Master System titles or wants to get into them, I can't recommend these games enough. They truly are the best way to play through the Sonic Master System series. And with the third game already on the way, and with it already shaping up to be just as good as the first two, there's even more to look forward to in this series. So please, show the team behind these amazing remakes some love and support, because what they've created here with these remakes is truly spectacular. Alright, we're starting to get close to the end of our list, and next up is actually a 32X style fan game, known as Sonic Genesis Blast. This title is being created by Ash White and the NGA team, and it saw its latest demo release back during Stage of 2020, and takes place right after the events of Knuckles Chaotix. The story begins with Sonic and his friends looking for Knuckles, but end up stumbling across Eggman's Techno Tower, where Eggman is already starting to make Eggman land on Neutrogic Island, and even has a secret base under the park. And now, Sonic must go and stop Eggman as well as save his friend Knuckles. Now yeah, the story is pretty straightforward and pretty much is in line with most mainline Sonic titles, but the concept of continuing the story after Knuckles Chaotix is really cool. Now with the story out of the way, let's move on to gameplay. Sonic, Mighty, Tails, and the secret character Knuckles all feel amazing to use. And again, just like the other games on this list, they have their own signature abilities and pretty much feel one-to-one with the Genesis titles. However, the actual effects and sprite work here is far more flashy than anything we've seen from Sega themselves. If you destroy badniks and monitors, it'll actually cause the screen to shake, adding more of an impact. There's an extremely colorful and detailed sprite work with amazing set pieces, the music is catchy and highly energetic, and easily captures the same feel and vibe as the original Knuckles Chaotix. The level itself is vast, with plenty of pathways to take and areas to explore, and the game even comes with a unique boss fight at the end to take on, and though it may not be the hardest thing in the world, it's still a fun little challenge. Now yes, the game isn't super long. If you were to play through the whole game and experience all the characters, you'll probably get around 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay. But regardless of that, the game is still a blast to enjoy. Now, unfortunately, this is yet another amazing fan project that did end up getting canned, and there hasn't actually been an update from the developers for quite some time. So it's honestly a mystery on how much work was actually done on Sonic Genesis Blast before this happened. But I guess, just like I've said many other times on this list, only time will tell if this amazing fan game ever comes back from the dead and gets released sometime in the future. Well everyone, coming up next we have a fan game that I actually stumbled across rather recently that blew me away when I looked into it. And that title goes by the name of Sonic Axiom. This project saw its latest release in 2011 from user AlexW1. This title obviously is inspired from the mainline classics, with the most comparable games being Sonic 1 and CD, due to its similar level design and structure. However, unlike most of the entries on this list, this project is fully completed and has an insane runtime. Now, Axiom actually achieves this with its impressive variety of content, like having 3 playable characters, that being the main trio, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, each with their own unique abilities and controls, along with 18 full-fledged levels, all with creative level design that also offer a variety of different routes to explore. But that's not all, as these stages also include 9 challenging and original bosses, each with unique attack patterns and designs. And Axiom even includes 7 original special stages that you can hunt down in order to try and attempt to obtain a Chaos Emerald to go super. Axiom also sports with it some gorgeous visuals with a beautiful variety of detailed sprites and colors, making each stage a treat to look at. And the OST is also a massive highlight, with this fan game being accompanied with many unique and high energy tracks. And with all this content packed into this title, it can actually make an average runtime range from 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And that's not counting multiple playthroughs with other characters, which is impressive as a total package, and easily rivals Sega official releases in both runtime and quality. This is just a gem of a game, and the fact that I stumbled across a title that fits the bill for a top-class Sonic fan game by complete accident is just shocking to me. Especially since I could easily see Sonic Axiom being considered the unofficial Sonic 4 back in 2011. And even now it still holds up fairly well when compared to other top fan projects. So for anyone who wants to complete an original Genesis style game, then you're in for a treat, because Sonic Axiom will provide all of that with ease. Okay, we're at our final 2 entries in this portion of the video. And the next one up is another title that advanced players will not only love, but ones that fans have been wishing Sega would make for years. And that title is Sonic Advance 4. This marvelous fan title is being created by a user known as Old Gamer New World, and it saw its latest release during Sage in 2023. Though that isn't entirely accurate, but we'll get to that in a minute. This game, as it says in the title, is pretty much meant to be a fan 4th installment to the Advance series, which was a line of games that released on the GBA back in the early 2000s. But this title sets out to add a whole bunch of additional characters and pushes the overall Advance experience to the absolute limit. Now currently, Advance 4 comes with 2 playable zones with 3 acts to run through, and all these stages offer a wide variety of alternative paths and obstacles, so the level design as a whole is just marvelous. There's also a boss you can take on, which can prove to be a nice challenge. Also, the stages, their environments, as well as the overall look of the game is top-notch. Of course, it has that advanced sprite style, but it comes with a bunch of added animations and effects, and it looks bloody gorgeous. Now, as cool as these levels are, they really wouldn't be that great without some top-tier characters to use, and luckily, that's the case here. First off, you have a grand total of 6 different characters at your disposal, that being Sonic, Shadow, Knuckles, Amy, Tails, and a brand new addition known as Angel. And all of them offer a different playstyle with their own abilities, so there should be a character in this cast that you'll enjoy. On top of this, you have multiple options for tricks that you can use to either maintain speed and or get to higher platforms, and you can even use wall running and wall jumping to traverse to certain areas. There's also a shop you can access to buy additional skills like the drop dash, double jump, which is awesome. And if you're really dedicated, you can even unlock Infinite Boost, which is OP as all heck. The characters and their different skills feel fantastic, the sense of speed the levels have is intense, and there's still a lot of room to practice in this title with a pretty decent skill ceiling. In fact, there's actually a ranking system to encourage this. Also, another thing that the game offers is a modern and advanced mode, which will change the gameplay just ever so slightly. Modern mode encourages you to use boost, while advanced mode actually discourages it, and will actually drop your rank if you do end up using it during gameplay, which I think is a nice touch, because it offers players to choose what type of style they want. And that's still not all. Also, quick side note, epilepsy warning for anyone that might be photosensitive. Anywho, if you go into the game files and mess around just a bit, you can actually unlock super and hyper forms. These transformations will demolish these levels, and they're a blast to use. And though you have to unlock them in a rather unorthodox manner, it's more than worth it. Though I will say if you're photosensitive, I would probably avoid Hypersonic in this game due to the color intensity. As a total package, Sonic Advance 4 is one of the best advanced-style fan games ever made that offers so much. However, there is one caveat that I alluded to earlier. The version you've been seeing on screen is actually version 2.0.1, and allegedly, during Stage of 2023, there was an update to version 2.1.1, but this version is busted. You're stuck in practice mode and there's no music, and the collision is totally broken, which makes the level unbeatable. And this version actually ended up replacing the 2.0.1 download, which is a shame. But thankfully, your boy Jitter came in clutch, as I already downloaded version 2.0.1 years ago when it first released. And in order to preserve it, I've uploaded it to my channel's Google Drive and made it available for public download. And because I'm so nice, I've also went ahead and attached the modified save file that already has the super forms and hyper forms and additional skills already unlocked, along with instructions on how to properly install the save file so you can enjoy the game yourself. Oh, and I also included instructions on how to put the game in full screen. You're welcome. So for anyone who wanted to give this title a shot, I've got your back. And for anyone that's always wanted to see a fourth installment to the Advance series, then I honestly think you will fall in love with Advance 4 just like I did. And I really hope that one day this fan title comes back and gets even more content added in the future, because holy crap, it is just too perfect to leave in the dust. And now we have finally reached the end of our very first segment. And the game to end this section off is a title that I would consider to be one of the best fan games ever, also known as Sonic Emerald Ties. This right here is an amazing fan title that has so much to offer. This game is being developed by Team Emerald, not the same team that's making Neo Genesis. This is a different team, just so everyone's aware. And it saw its latest demo release during Stage of 2021. And though it might be just a demo, it is practically a full Sonic title. This demo comes with a grand total of 4 zones to run through, with 10 acts total, each sporting many alternative areas to run through and hazards. Each level looks visually distinct and has some jamming music that fits each stage like a glove. Sonic himself feels just like the mainline titles, with proper weight, momentum, and control, and he even has the super peel out, drop dash, and spin dash. And with how these stages are designed, you'll be blazing through these levels with Sonic's moveset. There are also some bosses you can face off against that are a really fun time to fight. And graphically speaking, this game is just stunning. The colors used are bright and beautiful. The animations are great. The backgrounds and set pieces are eye-catching. This whole game is just eye candy. Overall, Sonic Emerald Ties is a marvelous game to play. And with there being a grand total of 10 acts to race through, you'll spend quite a bit of time with this title, with gameplay ranging anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes, depending, which is pretty crazy. And on a bit of a personal note, like a lot of other titles on this list, when I first saw this game, I fell head over heels for it. The way it plays, the way it looks, it had all the qualities of a top-tier classic Sonic title that could easily rival the official Sega releases. However, as far as the current development status is concerned, I'm sadly not too sure. After the 2021 10-act demo released, we haven't really heard anything more from the project. The team's main Twitter is somewhat active, but it's been a good bit since we've actually received an update specifically on Emerald Ties, which really sucks. I truly hope that one day this project ends up coming back. And more than that, I hope this game gets finished, because it truly has a one-of-a-kind identity to it. And it had so much potential to be one of the greatest Sonic fan games, heck, one of the greatest Sonic games ever made. And with that, we have finally reached the end of the top 2D Sonic fan games. So with all that said, let's move on to our next segment. Alright everyone, welcome to the next major segment in the video, the top 3D Sonic fan games. This segment, just like the first, will have entries that will have to meet certain criteria in order to be a part of this segment. In fact, they actually have to meet the exact same criteria. So with that in mind, let's hop into our very first entry. That being Sonic Project Hero. This was a fan game being developed by a user known as, funny enough, Hero, and it saw its last playable update back in 2019. Now this title has got a pretty major reputation, and some crazy history, so let's start at the beginning. Project Hero first began its life as a 3D modern Sonic style fan game that gave Sonic & Co. tons of movement options which were all amazing to use to say the least. This project would receive fairly consistent demos and updates over the years, showcasing the characters' movesets and abilities, and eventually we would actually get a Sage demo in 2019, which was praised by everyone. Not only did it play like a dream with all the characters having responsive and snapping controls, but the demo also looked utterly beautiful. The demo itself featured the player in a massive sandbox-like test area, where you can mess with the character's movement options to your heart's content. Now, with all that said, here's where things get a little crazy. After some time, Project Hero would go through a gigantic change, as it would transition from a modern Sonic fan game to a 3D classic Sonic title. Project Hero now had a brand new look with cel-shaded graphics and new models for the characters, and the screenshots and the gameplay that we saw was extremely promising. However, after this showcase of Project Hero's new direction, the project ended up going completely silent. And it wouldn't actually be until July of 2023 that Hero would announce the project was being put on hiatus, since he didn't feel like he had the ability to fully realize his project and his dream. And that is a real shame. We never even got a playable demo of this new version of Project Hero, and no more updates have been shared on the game, which really sucks. Now yes, this is pretty sad, but at least we have the amazing 2019 demo to keep us company, and remind us what could have been for Project Hero. And who knows, maybe over time, we might see Hero make a triumphant return to the project, and or see someone else take up the mantle and turn Project Hero into a full-fledged game. And I really hope this happens, especially since Project Hero's controls, movement options, the characters, all of it was just so damn crisp. And heck, even to this day, people still go back to Project Hero and state that they wish that modern games played like this project, and I'm right there with them. And I mean, if you really think about it, if fans are saying that they wish that modern titles would play and feel like your fan project, then you'd have to be doing something right. Okay, next we have a title that is actually an online racing game called Sonic Revert. This game was being developed by Talbius, and it saw its latest release during Sage of 2020. Now, this entire fan game is a 3D parkour-like racing game, with several tracks you can blaze through, with a few characters you can actually use, and there's even a story that the game shows us using some awesome cutscenes. In Sonic Revert, Eggman has gotten his hands on all the Chaos Emeralds, and he uses his new device to shatter the world into thousands of pieces. And now it's up to Sonic, or should I say Sonics, to race through the shattered world and collect the emeralds to put things right. Overall, the story is pretty solid, and I really enjoy it, and I think it's a great setup for Revert. But that's not the only thing that's enjoyable, as the overall style of Revert is awesome. Everything has this chibi, low-poly look to it, which I adore, and the music itself is fast-paced and energetic, which gives Revert a really unique identity. Now, as far as gameplay is concerned, you have a few options. You can either play Time Attack mode, in which you run through all the levels as fast as possible, or the main mode, which is online multiplayer. You see, you can verse off against your friends and or other players in these huge stages, utilizing different pathways to your advantage to pull ahead in the race. These stages can be pretty dynamic, from running along walls, to teleporting between stages, to hopping between platforms, avoiding spikes, hopping off of baddies. It can get pretty crazy. Sonic himself feels great to use, with his general movement being very similar to controlling a car, similar to, well, Sonic R. On top of that, Sonic also has the homing attack. However, unlike a traditional homing attack, this version has the ability to let you aim yourself, which can allow you to pull off some really insane saves, and or allow you to take alternative paths. There's also another cool ability called the Ring Boost, which will give you a massive boost in speed, but with the trade-off of losing rings as you boost, which creates an awesome incentive to actually collect rings as you play. All in all, Sonic Revert is a fantastic racing title with a great art style, responsive controls, and dynamic levels that offers a great amount of replay value in its multiplayer. And if you're looking for a new racing title, or if you're a fan of Sonic R, then Sonic Revert will be a title that you'll fall in love with. Okay, next up we have a fan game that actually is inspired by Sonic 3D Blast, a game called Sonic Relighted. Now this title is being created by Team Relighted, and it came out during Sage of 2020. This game sees Sonic flying a tornado before cruising into a snowstorm that forced him to land in Snow Valley. And now you gotta find a way out of the valley and get back on track. Now, graphically speaking, this game is rocking an isometric view with beautiful lighting and texture work, and all the models have this semi-low poly look to them, which all comes together to give Relighted its own identity. And the music is also amazing, with this euphoric and mysterious-like track. It all just comes together so well. And gameplay-wise, this title is pretty straightforward. Sonic feels pretty decent, but a tad slippery, akin to Sonic 3D Blast, which if you've played that title, this will feel pretty similar to it, which I personally don't mind. And you'll find yourself going around this massive level, exploring the areas that you come across, in search of secrets, as well as these massive satellite dishes that litter the area that you'll actually need to take out. And the general pace of this game is definitely slower than a traditional Sonic title, but I think it's well implemented, as it lets you get immersed in this snow region and explore the world around you, rather than blasting through it at max velocity. Now, the demo is not super long, with gameplay right around 10 minutes, but even if it is short, it still leaves a pretty good impact, and it has a one-of-a-kind identity to it, so you won't be forgetting it anytime soon. Now, sadly, even if this game is pretty charming, it did end up getting cancelled sometime between 2020 and 2023. However, the dev team were total legends, and actually ended up putting the entire source code of their project online for anyone to download, which means if someone's willing to, they can actually continue where Relighted left off, which is just so cool. But surprisingly, there's more. It turns out that the dev team also recently announced that they were going to turn the entire story that they had planned for Sonic Relighted into a full-blown webcomic, so we can actually see how the main story was going to play out, which is amazing. Sonic Relighted is an awesome fan game that has a whole lot of personality. It's a type of title that you can just load up, sit down, and relax, and just get immersed in the environment and honestly kind of vibe to. And if you're into isometric-like 3D games, and or you just want a game that you can vibe with for a bit, then you'll probably love Relighted. And hopefully this project will end up getting revived sometime in the future, and ends up becoming a full-fledged experience. Alrighty, next up is actually a fairly short entry, but a cool one nonetheless, as it's actually a 3D style 2D classic Sonic experience that's been around for quite some time. And that title is Sonic Fan Remix. This is a title that's being developed by, and I'm super sorry, I'm probably going to butcher your names, Pelican 13 and Damesian, and it released back sometime around 2010. Now this game sets out to reimagine levels from Sonic 1, 2, and 3 into a brand new experience. And right off the bat, this game is just gorgeous. This demo that we have reimagines all of Emerald Hill in a beautiful 3D style, with amazing new models, fantastic lighting and textures. The set pieces are marvelous. It is just pure bliss looking at this title. And there's actually a whole other build of Fan Remix that even shows off Chemical Plant, and it also looks amazing. Sonic himself feels great to use, just like his official Genesis counterparts, with his way-in jumps being solid. He also has a spin dash, which is great to use, and also feels super responsive. And overall, he plays great, as kind of to be expected at this point. The acts you get to run through are all well designed and offer several alternative pathways to take, and are pretty similar to their Genesis counterparts. There are also baddies to smash, obstacles you'll encounter, and in short, it's just a solid classic Sonic title. Though in truth, this demo is fairly short. Aside from the Chemical Plant build, the main release of this game can be knocked down in about 5 to 8 minutes, which isn't very much. But the gameplay and presentation more than makes up for it. Now, sadly, the original devs actually ended up canning the project a good while back. However, there is actually another user by the name of Beats that did end up picking this project back up and is currently trying to combine the two builds together, the Emerald Hill build and the Chemical Plant build. On top of this, they actually implemented Sonic's drop dash into the game and has now given Tails the ability to fly and has made him playable, which is awesome. So there is still a good chance that Sonic Fan Remix will continue being developed, and actually could reach a state of completion. So if you want to play through one of the most beautiful Sonic fan games ever, and want to see what the classic games could have looked like with a new coat of paint, then I suggest giving Sonic Fan Remix a shot. because it easily fits that bill. Well everyone, our next title is another rather short one, but still just as deserving of a mention as any other. And that title is Sonic Roller NB. Now, first off, I know what some of you may say. I have no idea what in the world NB is supposed to mean in the context of this title, so don't even ask, I have no clue. But besides this somewhat odd title choice, this adorable little fan title is being created by Biss the Fairy, and it saw its demo release back in 2021. And this title actually combines elements found in a plethora of Sonic titles, like Lost World, Sonic Extreme, but also pulls some inspiration and aesthetic choices from other non-Sonic titles. Specifically, and one of the best examples, Paper Mario. Graphically speaking, this game looks adorable, with Sonic himself having a Paper Mario-like appearance. The model work is cute and low poly, and is just charming to look at. The music itself is also pretty good, though for some very strange reason, there's actually a Discord sound that plays at some points in the song, which made me check my Discord multiple times out of just pure confusion. Now, gameplay-wise, Sonic feels and plays like, well, a Paper Mario title, with the ability to do a dash and a stomp. He's more floating than a traditional Sonic title, but that helps with the game's more relaxed pace. The level itself isn't anything insane, with some enemies to hit, rings to collect, and areas to jump. But once you do end up reaching the end of this level, it'll actually repeat the level and restart it, which kind of turns the demo into a bit of an endless mode, where you keep running through the stage to your heart's content. With all that said, I'm sure you can obviously tell that this is more of just a proof of concept than anything else, mainly experimenting with Sonic's aesthetic and controls. So you won't really get a lot of mileage out of this title, but it's still a fun look regardless, and it lends to see an awesome alternative take on Sonic, which to me warrants a playthrough, especially since it's so short. It won't really take up that much of your time. Now at the moment, nothing more in this project has been released, so this demo is all we really have at this point. But for anyone who has always wanted to see a Paper Mario-like Sonic game, or at least see what it could have been like, then genuinely Sonic Roller NB should honestly help satisfy that curiosity. Alright, next up is a 3D Sonic game that not only looks plain beautiful, but has some serious potential. And that game is Sonic Illusions. This is a game being created by Innovative Development, and it saw its final version of its tech demo release in 2023. Now, Sonic Illusions features an array of different levels, both new and old, along with Sonic having a full-blown skill tree and EXP system. Now, as you first start off, Sonic will have a few abilities at his disposal, like the ability to boost and use the homing attack. And as far as his basic controls are concerned, Sonic feels pretty good to use. But aside from these bare bones basics, he actually won't have that much in his arsenal, at least not when it comes to movement. You'll notice that abilities like the Light Dash and Quick Step aren't at your immediate disposal, and are actually locked behind an EXP system, where you'll have to play more and more and eventually unlock them. Which you'll definitely feel at the start, since these are pretty important to Sonic's basic moveset. However, the more levels you play through and the more you unlock, these skills will end up making Sonic become better and better. Honestly, the best way I can kind of describe how it works is a bit of a combination between Sonic Frontiers and Secret Rings, where you'll have to play more and more in order to make Sonic feel better and better. It'll definitely take some getting used to, but I think it's pretty well implemented. The levels themselves are all around pretty solid, with some stages being ported over from other games like Sonic Forces and Colors. You can also explore these stages to an extent and hunt down these purple phantom rings, which can be used to buy cosmetics and costumes, which are awesome. And graphically speaking, this game as well, for a lack of a better term, bloody gorgeous. The lighting, the models, the textures, the backgrounds, the UI, oh my goodness, from the pause menu to the back of Sonic's quills, it all looks so damn clean. The game also sports a pretty insane length, with your gameplay time easily reaching multiple hours in order to practice the stages, find all the collectibles, and unlock all of Sonic's abilities. And that is genuinely awesome. Now, as great as all this is, there are a few caveats that should be addressed. First off, some stages that have been ported over aren't quite fully working. For example, Tropical Resort is a perfect functioning level that feels great to dash through and that has been perfectly transitioned from Sonic Colors into Sonic Illusions. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, Apodos at first plays really well, but soon falls victim to broken collision and busted automated sections, which is a genuine shame and can make it really difficult to finish the stage. Now, once you do learn these hiccups, you can avoid them pretty easily, and they aren't all that bad, but at first it can get pretty frustrating. Another issue is that the camera can get a bit janky. This is due to the fact that it swaps between being a fixed camera to an unfixed camera on a dime, and this can actually work against you a lot. If the camera stayed unfixed throughout the whole game and only moved to give you a general idea of the direction you need to go and or for a cinematic effect, it would work way better. Now, these might sound pretty bad, but they really aren't. The game is still tons of fun regardless of these issues, and once you learn to work with the jank, you won't have that much trouble. These are just some areas of improvement that will make a game that's already a whole lot of fun that much better. With all that said, Sonic Illusions has so much potential to be another top-tier 3D game, and with how fun and addictive the final tech demo is, I honestly have no worries that the future releases will only get better and better. Welp, we've got another entry here that's actually fairly short, but still really cool, as it's actually a set of tech demos that demakes one of my favorite games of all time. The game in question? Sonic Adventure DS. You heard that right. This is a fan project demaking SA1, and it is super cool. Both demos were created by Yacker, and the latest demo came out during stage of 2023. In both demos, you play as Sonic in a recreated level from SA1, with the first demo containing a very early version of Speed Highway. Sonic plays pretty good, and the level is really faithful to the original as well, which for an early demo is pretty awesome. Now, the second demo has a recreation of Emerald Coast. However, this demo has some far better improvements over the first one. First off, the audio in this one actually works, meaning that you can hear the music and the sound effects in full. And on top of that, this later demo has even more detailed level design. However, it should be noted that both tech demos are still fairly short, so you'll knock them both out in about 3 to 4 minutes. But what makes this so impressive is that this title works on real hardware. Yup, both of these tech demos can run with no issue on a real DS, and that is just insane. So with that said, with how cool this all is, you might be wondering what the current goal of the project is. Is it trying to remake all of SA1 or just be a tech demo? Well, I'm not too sure. I couldn't find anything from Yacker themselves that states that these demos will lead to something bigger or not. But if Yacker does plan a remake of all of SA1 on DS, I think they will turn out amazing, especially with how good this engine is. But even if they don't, I still believe that these tech demos should be praised, because the fact that you can play SA1 on the DS in any form is just downright impressive. Alright, we're nearing the end of this section, and our second to final game is a Saturn-inspired title based on an obscure Sonic character. A game called Honey Chaos Dynasty. This is a fan title being created by FlashCap777, and it had its latest release during stage of 2021. And this game is so cool. Now, first off, the entire style of this game is meant to be as if it was released on the Sega Saturn. So the model work, the textures, the music, it all fits that Sega Saturn early 3D 90s vibe perfectly. It's such solid work. On top of this, the actual demo itself features you in a huge area with a vast amount of places to explore. You can take out enemies, collect rings, and just go all over the place to your heart's content. This game also gives you an objective in order to proceed through the level, kind of like an old 90s 3D collectathon, where you'll need to collect keys in order to access the goal, which helps create an incentive for exploration. And honestly, it's great to do just that. Now, as far as the character you play as, you control a character named Honey. This was a character found in Sonic the Fighters, who also appeared in the Sonic comic series. And this character is actually a cat that has their very own clothing line that self-promotes their own brand a whole bunch. Now, with that said, Honey feels great to play. She has the ability to jump and dash, but also comes with unique features, like how Honey actually has an armor system, where her dress can actually absorb rings and gain defense. But if she takes damage, then she won't be able to collect the lost rings. She also can charge a Shadow Dash, for either attacking and or mobility, which gives Honey a unique moveset and feel. Also, there's even a story that comes along with this cool title. On what would have been another uneventful morning in the Chaos Dynasty's hidden castle, Honey the Cat is awoken by a sudden invasion from an unknown robot army that appears to have stolen the Master Shard. Now, unfortunately, everyone else in the Chaos Dynasty's castle actually ended up going on vacation a week prior to the game's events, so now it's solely up to Honey to actually go and retrieve the Master Shard. So she sets off to travel the lands and retrieve the shard from the mysterious invaders. The setup here is solid, and totally sounds like something you would find in a possible Sonic spin-off during the 90s. And overall, this title is just so charming and truly captures the look and feel of games found on the Sega Saturn, as well as the feel of those old 3D platformers, and I just love it. Now, as cool as all this is, sadly development actually has stopped in its current form, and the dev is actually working on their own unique IP, using a lot of what was already created and planned to be added for Chaos Dynasty. But the dev has said that there's always a chance that the game could resume development after their original game was completed, and I really hope that happens. In the fan game space, we really don't get a bunch of other titles based off of other characters in the Sonic mythos, so it would be amazing to see this title actually reach completion, and to help change that norm. So, with that said, if you're looking for a fun 90s style platformer that can easily fit right in line with the Sega Saturn, then I honestly think that Chaos Dynasty is the game for you. And I'm sure you'll fall in love with it, just like I did. And now we have reached the end of the top 3D Sonic fan games. And the title to send us off is actually another game from Yacker. And it's one that Sonic Adventure fans will probably fall heads over heels for. And that game is Sonic Journey. Okay, let me set the stage for you. When I was a boy growing up, the first major 3D Sonic games I had ever played was the Adventure series, Adventure 1 and Adventure 2. And aside from their characters and their awesome story and everything, the thing that stuck with me the most about both of these games was the way they felt to play. Their physics, their mechanics, it was so on point to me. And to this day, I still think that the Adventure games feel the best out of the entire series. With that said, every modern Sonic game that has come out has never quite felt the same as the old Adventure games. And I've been very hard pressed over all these years to ever find a game that's felt just like the original SA1 and SA2. Or at least that was the case until Sonic Journey came along. The game has its very own original framework that feels almost one-to-one with the original Adventure titles. In fact, it feels so exact that when I first loaded it up, my muscle memory kicked into high gear because it felt just like SA1. And when it felt that exact, that was the moment I knew that Sonic Journey was one of the greatest fan games I could have ever asked for. Its mechanics, its gameplay, its physics, I cannot overstate how exact they felt and how amazing it is that they are this close to the OG games. But here's the thing though, that is just one small part of this insane title. When you first load up the game, you'll actually have a few stages to experience, two of which are from SA1, which fit perfectly in this framework. On top of that, the game also features multiplayer. You have the option to play up to not 2 other players, not 10 other players, but up to 32 players. What? And that's still not all. You have the ability to download and create your very own stages and mod them into the game, which is a beautiful addition. Which means, if you haven't figured out already, that theoretically, this title could have endless replayability, since this game features an importer for Sonic Blitz stages. And for those that don't know, Sonic Blitz is another fan-related project from years ago, which is also really, really cool, which ended up leading to Sonic World and Sonic World DX, so now you know. Anyway, so you can play countless stages that were used with the Blitz engine, and play them here, and play with them with your friends. Oh, and for anyone wondering, if you're wanting to find some stages to download, you can find a good amount of them via the Sonic Blitz wiki page. Though your mileage may vary on what levels will actually work, since some stages are downright incompatible if they're really, really new, but older stages seem to normally work. Now, graphically speaking, the game looks great and the model work is solid, and it kinda has that early 2000s-like vibe to it, which I think fits Sonic Journey very, very well, especially since that this is kind of an online Sonic Adventure 1-like game. So please, if you love SA1 or SA2, then check out Sonic Journey. It's one of the best games I have ever played, and it more than deserves some praise. And with that, we have finally reached the end of the top 3D Sonic fan games. These titles were awesome and had tons of personality. But with all that said, let's move on to our very next major section. Okay everyone, we made it to the third major segment of this collection, the unique Sonic fan games. This section will contain Sonic games that break from the traditional norm of a Sonic title, and attempt to do their very own thing. Now of course, these titles will have to meet certain criteria, specifically the same criteria as the previous two segments. So with that said, let's keep rolling and take on our first entry. And the title to kick things off is a really intense and bombastic title, called Sonic Battle HD Deluxe Edition. Now, this is a fighting game running off the Mugen engine, and it's being developed by Kyud, and it saw its latest release in 2023. And this is a fighting game that features a vast amount of different characters. But first and foremost, let's talk about the graphics. This title is stylized after the Advanced series, with sprite work being akin to those games. But on top of that, the game features a very clean UI and very flashy animations and effects. On top of this, the game also features some really solid music, with soundtracks being taken from all throughout Sonic's long career. And gameplay is pretty much what you would expect. You're able to use a wide variety of combos and abilities in several modes to take down your opponents in massive fights. You can play arcade mode, versus mode, survival, and more. And also you can even play with your friends, which can lead to some pretty intense scuffles. Each character that you can use feels great, and their combat options are insane. In fact, some characters even have the ability to turn into alternative super or even hyper forms, which can give you a serious power boost. And focusing on the cast specifically, there is just so many, with there being a grand total of 135 separate characters. From Sonic to Shadow to Hypertails to Mephiles to even fan-created characters from all over the fandom like Sleekadoom or Shattuck. There is just so many characters, it is wild! There's even a full-blown modding community, which means you can add even more fighters to this already insane roster. And the combination of fights you can have here is just astronomical. Now, it should definitely be stated that as amazing as all this is, some characters are not well balanced, as to be expected. Some matchups are going to be downright unfair, and when facing up against CPUs, it can get even worse. On top of that, there are also some effects that can get really, and I mean really, intense. So if you're photosensitive, you might want to avoid this game. But besides those 2 points, this is a really solid title, and you'll have a blast with it. So if you're looking for an insane top-tier Sonic fighting title, and or you want to play a wide variety of Sonic characters from all over the fandom, then Sonic Battle HD will be a game that you'll enjoy for sure. Alright, next up is a rather short but still really cool title based around Eggman's Badniks, and that game is called Badnik Quarrel. This is an online title being created by Pivik that saw its latest release in 2022. This title features you in massive arena battles facing off against other teams, where you can be a variety of different Badniks and characters that all come with their own different abilities and attacks. And these characters can be upgraded and modified via the shop, which you have access to in the main menu. There's also other mini games that you can experience and play through in between rounds, where you'll also get to face off against other players. And there's a whole bunch of stages you can actually play on. Overall, this is just a fun online title that you can play with your friends and or verse off against other users, and it's just a fun time. In between all the modes that you can experience and verse off against other players in, and the upgrading system for your Badniks, you can spend quite a good amount of time in this title, from minutes to hours to even days. It all kind of depends on how dedicated you want to play this game. And that's pretty much it. So if you're looking for an online experience to play with others, and or if you want a title with a ton of replay value, then Badnik Quarrel will be a game that you should end up having a great time with. Okay, next up is a rather small, but still fun little fan game that goes by the name of Sonic Action. This is a fan game being created by Flasher TH, and it saw its latest demo come out in 2020. Now this is actually a remake of an old Sonic Flash game called Shadow Shooter, and it sees you running on an automated path, avoiding obstacles, jumping over spikes, and avoiding pits, all while collecting rings and running through the level to reach the end of the goal. Now, graphically, the game is styled after the Advanced series, and the sprite work and animation looks solid. And though there might not be a whole lot of tracks in this title, the music here is still pretty good. Now, you do have 3 characters at your disposal that you can play as, that being Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and each of them have their own specific type, specifically power, flying, and speed. and each have their own playstyle in the game. For example, Knuckles can actually glide for a short bit of time, Tails can fly, and Sonic can spin dash. But unlike traditional Sonic games where you can just easily jump and roll through baddies and hazards, this time you actually have to really focus on hitting ramps and boost pads and being careful with the way you jump, since it's actually all about timing. So you really need to make sure you're paying attention to the level and making good and quick decisions while you're switching different lanes on the automated path. Now, yes, this is a really short fan game. There's only one level you can run through and 3 characters to use, so you won't spend but at most maybe 5 minutes or so, but even if that's the case, it's still a fun game regardless. Sadly though, it actually has been a bit since we've gotten an update on Sonic Action, and it's a safe bet to say that this title is no longer being developed, which is rather unfortunate. But this demo is still a fun little run, and still worth a look, and could easily have been expanded into a far bigger game. It's almost like a 2D version of Sonic Dash, which is really cool. I mean, this game could easily be expanded upon, like adding additional characters like Shadow, who could use Chaos Control for movement, and or Amy Rose, who could use her hammer for jumps. You could add more locales with more hazards, maybe add areas like Pumpkin Hill or Metropolis. And I honestly believe that if you leaned into the whole idea of a 2D Sonic Dash experience, you could really make a solid title here that could have some serious replay value. But aside from my crazy imagination and speculation, if you're wanting to play a fun little bite-sized Sonic fan game that has some cool ideas, then I think Sonic Action will be a fan game that you should definitely spend some time with. Well everyone, our next entry is actually on another fighting title, known as Team Sonic Fighters. This released back in 2020 and was being developed by George MP. And unlike a lot of other fan fighting titles I've covered that have been graphically based on the GBA and Advance series, but have way too many flashy effects and craziness that would clearly not run on that system, this is an actual title that feels like it could easily run on the GBA. This fighting game features Sonic and a few other characters in a solid skill-based fighting title, with several modes you can actually play through, like an arcade mode, versus and training, and even survival mode. You can also play solo, tag, or even turn-based matches, and every character you can use plays different and has their own unique combos and specials. The combos are satisfying to pull off, and every hit you land has some major impact. The level themes you can fight on are of a good variety, like being able to face off against Green Hill Zone or Radical Highway, and the overall set pieces, sprite work, effects, as well as the general animations are fantastic, and very well detailed, and honestly, this game truly feels like it can run on a GBA. And that's amazing. And just like all the other titles that we've talked about in this video, the music is another highlight, with it featuring tracks from all throughout Sonic's career. And from start to finish, Team Sonic Fighters is beautifully made and a nostalgic fighting game that could easily have been seen as a legitimate addition to the official Sonic titles released on the GBA. So, for anyone looking for a solid GBA fighting game that wants a more nostalgic experience that's more skill-based and isn't really into all the crazy flashy effects of other Sonic fan fighting titles, then you're going to love Team Sonic Fighters. Okay, next up is a title that a lot of Sonic fans should adore, as it's actually something that people have been requesting from Sega for years. And that game is Chao Island Resort. Yup, your eyes don't deceive you. This is a full-blown fan title focused on taking care of everyone's favorite little guys from the Sonic series. This title is being created by Neko, the same dev who actually created Sonic vs. Darkness True Nightmare Revived, which was a game that we actually looked at in the original Sonic Mega Fan Collection. And just like the previous work, this title is fantastic. Now, like I said, this fan game is a fully functional Chao garden. You can raise and breed Chao, increase their abilities, evolve them, give them cosmetic items to wear, you can give them interactive objects like toys and instruments to play with, you can obtain a wide variety of Chao eggs and colors, and you can even have Chaos go through activities. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. The activities your child can participate in range widely depending on the skill, like a race that you can play through, like being able to hit a bunch of balloons and get a high score, or collecting rings. There's a pretty good amount here. And these can easily offer a fun little break from the main game. You can also design the island the way you want and customize it, and the game even has a full day and night and season system, which is just insane. You also can play with different characters, which depending on the character you choose, will actually change the alignment of your Chao. meaning that if you play Sonic, your child will become a hero, or if you play a character like Shadow, they'll actually become a dark variant. Now, aside from all the gameplay, graphically speaking, this title is actually based off of the Advanced series, but the world you actually walk on is on a rotating 3D plane, which gives us some serious Animal Crossing vibes, which is super cool. The entire game is just so nostalgic for me, and being able to spend time and raise Chao just like I used to back when I played Sonic Adventure 2 on the daily is such an awesome treat. Honestly, this entire game is such a vibe. From the great music, to the sprite work, to the relaxing gameplay, this title is just marvelous, and I could easily spend hours and hours, and even days and days playing. So, if you want to play what has to be one of the most in-depth and well-created Chao experiences ever, then you owe it to yourself to check out Chao Island Resort, because it's everything you could ever ask for in a Chao raising experience. Alright, we're getting towards the end of our list, and there's only 3 entries left. And next up is actually a revival of a lost Sonic game, known as Sonic Runners Revival. Now, for those that don't know, a while back there was an app created called Sonic Runners. This was a highly praised title that saw you playing with a variety of different characters running along an automated path, where you would try to reach the end of the stage while avoiding hazards and enemies in order to reach the end of the level and progress. It had an entire story mode, special events, and much more. However, this fantastic title ended up getting shut down back in 2016, and afterwards was considered to be one of Sonic's lost titles. However, this is where Sonic Runners Revival actually comes into play. This game is being created by the Revival team, and it saw its latest release on January 10th of 2024. And what the team has done here is beyond phenomenal. Runners Revival is practically a one-to-one remake with the OG Runners, with all of the perks and the gameplay intact. You can play with a variety of different characters, each with their own abilities, along with using additional companions with their own additional status effects. You can also obtain power-ups for the levels and run through a variety of different locales, all collecting gems and rings. And you can even replay the entirety of the main story. So everything from the original is here. They also released this title on Android, Windows, and Mac, and they still regularly keep up with updates and events. Heck, they even recently added a Christmas version of Tangle, a character from the IDW comic series, which is just astounding. And they plan to add other character variants like Gothic Blaze and Whisper. With a massive variety of characters to use, levels to run through, things to collect, without any worry of ads or in-app purchases, there really is no downside to Runners Revival. And this project truly brought back one of Sonic's coolest titles back from the grave. And I honestly can't praise the team enough for that achievement. So, with all that said, if you never got a chance to play the original Sonic Runners before it bit the dust, or if you did play the original Sonic Runners and wish you could play it again, then Sonic Runners Revival is literally the game for you. And on a bit of a personal note, for me at least, this will always be the perfect and definitive way to play this long-lost title. Well everyone, we're finally down to our last 2 entries in this segment. And actually, this entry is a double whammy. That being Robotnik's Mean Bean Tetris and Sonic Blasters. Okay, first off, let's focus on Robotnik's Mean Bean Tetris. This title along with Sonic Blasters were both developed by Sega Moon, and it saw its latest release during Sage of 2023. Now, for those that don't know, this fan title is actually based off of an old Genesis game called Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which released in 1993. And this game pretty much was just Puyo Puyo, but with a Western Sonic cartoon aesthetic, and that's pretty much what Robotnik's Mean Bean Tetris is. Now, with that said, just like Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, this fan title actually does come with a story. It starts off with Robotnik performing an experiment that goes awry, and he actually ends up going face to face with a dark duplicate of himself. Now, with there being 2 Robotniks, all the Badniks are getting confused, and it's up to you, / the real Eggman, to take down the Dark Double. The story here is awesome, charming, and straight to the point, and I love it. In fact, I actually love everything about this title. The presentation is amazing, with the game having well-detailed sprites and animations, and on top of that, the music and sound design is also on point. And gameplay-wise, it's also a whole lot of fun. Not only are there multiple modes to play through, with there being even a multiplayer mode where you can verse other friends or even work together, but you can also play through a full story mode. And it can get pretty tough. Now, when you are actually in the main game, it pretty much plays like standard Tetris, where you actually have to complete lines and reach a certain score before the level is completed. However, there's actually an added addition to this to mix things up, called the heat meter. In the left, it will rise over time, and as it gets hotter, the blocks will fall faster. But you can mitigate this by completing lines with ice Puyo blocks, which will actually decrease this meter. But this is definitely easier to say than it is to do, as stages will only get harder and harder the more you advance through the stages and try and get to the evil doctor. All in all, this is an awesome game that not only is fully completed, but offers a pretty intense challenge that you'll need to bring your A game in order to overcome. But with that said, this game also holds a really cool secret. If you go into the password screen, you can actually enter a special password that lets you unlock a secret game called Sonic Blasters. And this is an entire 2D classic Sonic demo that you can play inside of Mean Bean Tetris. But here's the thing, Sonic Blasters is actually its own fan game, which in and of itself is amazing. Sonic Blasters is a fan game that actually ended up releasing during 2021 and takes place right after the events of Knuckles Chaotix, and features multiple playable characters. You have the option to play as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Mighty, and even Ray, each using their own special abilities, and all these characters feel fantastic. The game also features 2 full zones with 2 acts apiece, and even bosses. And the demo of Sonic Blasters is also a pretty fair length, with it lasting anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes, which is awesome. And to sweeten the deal, Sonic Blasters comes with a side mode to play, that being a smaller version of Robotnik's Mean Bean Tetris, which is amazing. And from start to finish, Sonic Blasters is just another all-around solid 2D Sonic fan game, and I love it. Though it should definitely be noted that the 2021 demo of Sonic Blasters is far less polished than the secret 2023 demo that was a part of the full release of Mean Bean Tetris. So if you do end up playing the original 2021 demo, you might run into a few issues and some design flaws. However, if you were to immediately jump into the demo from 2023, you'll definitely notice a large improvement, so please keep that in mind. Both of these fan titles are just fantastic, and the fact that you can play small demos of both games within each other is just such a cool idea. So if you're wanting to play an awesome and challenging Tetris experience, or you want to take on an awesome 2D Sonic title, then both of these fan games will be perfect for you. And I really hope that Sonic Blasters reaches full completion just like Mean Bean Tetris, because it totally deserves to be completed. And with all that said, that finally brings us to the end of the unique Sonic fan games. So with all that said and done, let's head on over to our final segment. Well everyone, we finally reached our final segment, that being the upcoming fan games for Sonic the Hedgehog. Titles in this segment will be games that are in active development that have received some sort of an update in the past year. And to make everything fair, games in this segment will have to either have a playable demo or a lot of info on their development. So with all that in mind, let's tackle our very first entry. And the fan game to start us off is one that has a major reputation. A game known as Sonic 2 HD. This is a fan game being created by Team S2HD, and it saw its latest release back in 2017. Now this fan game sought out to completely remake Sonic 2 from the Sega Genesis that released back in 1992, and give it a brand new coat of paint unlike any other. And based on the demo that we already have, it's pretty easy to tell that they achieved this flawlessly. Graphically speaking, this game is just stunning. The art in the backgrounds, the animations, the enemies, the character designs, the colors, it is all just breathtaking and gives Sonic 2 such a beautiful new look. And the music of course is just as good as Sonic 2, as it's just re-renditions of the original tracks. As far as gameplay is concerned, well, it feels exactly like the originals, so suffice it to say, it's pretty much perfect. Sonic and Tails both feel great to use, with both of them carrying their weight and momentum pretty much the same way as the Genesis original. Now the demo that we have comes with 3 zones, that being Emerald Hill, Chemical Plant, and Hilltop Zone, all of which have 2 acts a pop. and they're all pretty much one-to-one with their Genesis counterparts. And all these levels also come with their subsequent boss fights, which are amazing since they are pretty much the same exact boss fights found in the original Sonic 2. Overall, this is the type of remake I've always wanted to see for the classic Sonic games. And it's honestly insane the amount of effort this team has put into this remake, and it's even crazier that Sega hasn't taken it upon themselves to remake their classic titles in this fashion. Because if they did, it would easily become the definitive way to play the classic games, and Sonic 2 HD is proof of that. Now this game, obviously, is still in active development, though it has been a good bit since the last major update, which we got in the form of a stream from their main YouTube channel back in April 21st of 2022. But it's more than understandable why it's taken so long for this game to be created, since the amount of effort being poured into this project is astounding, and recreating every single asset from the original Sonic 2 takes some serious dedication and time. So, though it might be a bit till we actually get our hands on the full version of Sonic 2 HD, I'm more than sure when it does fully release, it'll become one of the most definitive ways to play through the original Sonic 2. But until then, at least we have this amazing demo to keep us company. Now, to follow up our last entry, we have another game that actually seeks to port a fan-beloved title to the PC. And that game is Sonic Unleashed Plus. This is a fan game that was being created by Team Hero Studios, and it saw its latest demo patch in January of 2024. And this fan game is a huge attempt to bring Sonic Unleashed, well, to the PC. Now, for those that don't know, Sonic Unleashed was a Sonic game that saw a release on almost every major platform back in 2008. However, it never got a PC port, which is very odd. And what makes things even stranger is that this game is actually extremely beloved by fans. And on top of that, every other 3D major Sonic title has gotten a release on PC, except for this one. But this then brings us back around to Unleashed Plus. Now, this title is setting to recreate the full Sonic Unleashed experience beat for beat, utilizing the Dash Engine 1.2 framework. And the work that's been done here is outstanding. Not only does the game look absolutely gorgeous, but the levels and hub worlds featured in the current demo are amazingly faithful to the original. Furthermore, gameplay is extremely faithful to the original as well. Sonic has all of his abilities and his general moveset, the game plays and functions and flows extremely close to the original. All in all, this is becoming a genuine faithful port to Unleashed, which is fantastic. Now, the demo isn't super long, with a grand total playtime ranging between 15 to 20 minutes, and this title is very much a ways away from becoming a full finished project. But even if that is the case, Sonic Unleashed is still an impressive feat that is showing a lot of promise, and it could very well become the main way to play Unleashed on PC in the future if Sega doesn't port the title first. So, with all that in mind, if you're looking for a game that seeks to port Unleashed to the PC, and or if you're not into emulation and you want it to run natively, then I would definitely keep your eyes on Unleashed Plus. Because, over time, fan game or not, this could very well become the definitive port of Sonic Unleashed to the PC. Alright, up next we have another Genesis-styled 2D Sonic game that shows a ton of promise, known as Sonic Eternal. Now, this is a title being created by a user known as, and I'm super sorry, I literally have no idea how to pronounce your name, so I'm totally gonna guess here, and I'm probably gonna butcher it, Noct. And it takes place right after the events of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where Mega Sonic returns and wants revenge on the Blue Blurb. And now it's up to Sonic to find the Chaos Emeralds and put a stop to Mecha Sonic before he destroys everything in his path to show Dr. Robotnik that he should not be replaced. Now, I love the setup for this story, especially since it features my main man Mecha Sonic, who is probably my all-time favorite Robo Faker out of the lineup, being the main bad. But there's a whole lot more to fall in love with here than just the story. First off, the demo is pretty beefy, with a grand total of 5 different zones to experience, with a grand total playtime ranging from about 15 to 20 minutes. The demo also features 3 playable characters, being Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. And just in the first few minutes of playing, you can easily tell that this game has all the markings of another top-class Sonic title. Furthermore, Sonic & Co. feel amazing to use, as to be expected, and the level design is solid with multiple paths you can take and areas you can explore. The bosses you face off against are all a fun challenge, and graphically speaking, the game is just beautiful, with the title being created with the general look and feel of something that could be released on the Sega Saturn. With well-detailed sprite work, animations, set pieces, cutscenes, and an amazing soundtrack, it all feels right at home on something that could be on the Sega Saturn. Now, with all that said, the demo is a fair few years old, with the demo releasing back in 2018. But the development on this project is far from dead, with the game Jolt page actually getting an update on October of 2023, and a YouTube video releasing showcasing a new stage in September of 2023. And it all looks amazing. In summary, Sonic Eternal looks like it could totally be a part of the mainline titles, and the work that the dev has put into this project is fantastic. And with the demo being as amazing as it is, it only makes me that much more ecstatic to see the full completion of Sonic Eternal. Okay, our next title is actually a fan game that's been in development since 2005. A title called Ashura Dark Reign. This is a very old fan game being created by Extreme Revolution, and it first began its life as just a mod pack, but would later become a full-fledged project standing on its own 2 feet. In fact, we would actually end up getting a full playable tech demo that released back in 2008, and it is so cool. Now, with that said, this game starts off with Sonic and Co being alerted to a disturbance on the floating island. There, Eggman and his Badniks are actually excavating a lost relic that holds dire consequences. Because of this, Sonic and Tails leap into action once again in order to thwart Eggman's newest scheme. But unbeknownst to them, the future is about to change for the worse, as Mobius' oldest threat is reawakened, a being known as Ashura. Now, to me, this story is pretty cool, but one of the biggest reasons why it's so awesome is actually because of Ashura. For those that don't know, Ashura is actually a character based off of a graphical glitch found in Sonic 2 under the same name, which is awesome. Now, moving on from that, graphically speaking, this tech demo has got a very early 2000s-like aesthetic, almost like an early PS2 title, and I love it. The texture work is solid, and the environments are really nice. And gameplay is also surprisingly solid for a game of this age. The levels are open-ended to encourage exploration, there are enemies you can smash, loops you can run through, and overall, this is a very solid game, especially, again, considering its age. The demo also has a very nice length, with there being 3 stages and a boss, with a runtime ranging from 10 to 15 minutes. Now, this is all really cool, but what I find more impressive than anything else is that a fan game that started development back in 2005 is still in development, with there actually being an update that released in early 2024 that shows an insane graphical glow-up. With a fan game being as old as this, it's awesome that the team is continuing development, and I really hope we get a new tech demo in the future that shows how far the team has come since the original 2008 demo. And it's gonna be a great day for sure when that does happen. But in the meantime, if you're looking for a title that'll put you back in the early 2000s and be an all-around good time, then Ashura Dark Reign is a game that you should definitely check out. Well, we're hopping back over to yet another Genesis-themed entry, and this one is actually a bit short, but still awesome nonetheless. And that game is Sonic Overdrive. This title is being created by Raccoon, and it saw release during 2023. And the whole idea behind this title is that it's the user's own personal take on Sonic 4, that they actually made out of pure boredom. I'm not making that up, that's in the game description, which is hilarious. Yup, this is a new take on Sonic 4, and it looks astounding. So, first off, like always, graphically speaking, this game looks, well, top-notch. The sprite work is gorgeous and very well detailed, and the set pieces and colors that are used are amazing. And on top of that, the music is, well, also fire. So, just a beautiful game all around. Gameplay-wise, it plays and feels top-notch, just as to be expected with a top 2D Sonic title, and the demo comes with 3 zones, featuring hazards and alternative pathways, with overall solid level design, and the playtime ranges anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. All in all, Overdrive is a beautiful game, and one to definitely keep your eye on, as it could very well create the de facto Sonic 4 experience. And as far as the game's current development is concerned, it actually did receive an update on March 23rd of 2024, which showcased a work-in-progress version of Splash Zone, which already looks amazing. And the game is actually planned to have a grand total of 10 zones, which will probably make the full experience a fairly beefy Sonic title that could easily be an hour or more in length, which is super exciting. In short, Overdrive looks like it's going to be yet another great title that has a lot of potential, and with development looking as consistent as it is, we might get a new demo sometime in the future. So if you always wanted to see a proper Sonic 4, or if you're looking for another awesome 2D fan game to play, well, Sonic Overdrive will definitely be worth your time. Okay, everyone, we got another really short entry, but one that is super impressive. And it's actually a port of a mainline title. The game in question, Sonic Unleashed on 3DS. This right here, as I'm sure you've already been able to put together, is an amazing handheld port of Sonic Unleashed to a freaking handheld, the 3DS no less. And this game is actually being developed by Innovative Development, the same people who made Sonic Illusions, who we already talked about previously. Now, we've already talked about Sonic Unleashed and its history and development, so we're not going to talk about all that again. We're going to only mainly focus on the 3DS port itself. Now, the most recent update on Unleashed 3DS actually showcases the first act being completely remade, and it plays and looks and feels just like the real deal. The model work is fantastic, Sonic has all of his major abilities like the boost and homing attack, and the level has enemies and dash pads that are all functional. Every bit of this demo is awesome. And you know what the crazy part about all of this is? It works on real freaking hardware, and it feels amazing. This is just so impressive of a fan title. And though this is still really early in development, and we only have this first little bit to play through, this is mainly establishing the basis of Sonic Unleashed on the 3DS. And the fact that it is set so well, the fact that it plays so well, should be more than appreciated. This project is a huge undertaking, and the fact that we already have this much on the 3DS is definitely impressive. And if you're a fan of Sonic Unleashed, then you honest to God need to check this project out and give it some serious praise and attention, because it definitely deserves it. And I honestly can't wait to see more from this marvelous 3DS port. Okay, next up is another short entry that kinda breaks my own rules to include, and that game is Sonic Hysteria. This game first began its life as a fan album being created by Nico, but would later be turned into a full-blown game by Team Temporical. Now, this title has been anticipated for a good long while, but we don't have a whole lot of info on its current development. In fact, the only in-game footage that we've ever gotten actually came from a video that released in April of 2021 that showed a few seconds of gameplay that stated that the game was now in development. Other than that, the only other major thing we have for this upcoming title is the OST itself, which has been released bit by bit, with all the tracks sounding amazing, with the footage used in the backgrounds of the OST videos giving us a glimpse at the set pieces of future stages. And we also do have the story of what this game is going to be, which goes as such. There was a being known as Temporical, a being of such mass power that was actually sealed in a prism relic ages ago, due to its ability to hijack technology and manipulate it to its liking. So of course, Dr. Robotnik, being the crazy man that he is, wants to reawaken and harness his power for himself. So now it's up to Sonic and pals to put a stop to his plans before it's too late. And with that, that's actually all that we have at the moment. Now, Team Temporical does have a Discord server where they do some updates on the project itself, and based on what's been said in the chats, you can kind of guess that they have been working on it behind the scenes, and they're keeping it a pretty fair secret. But aside from the quote-unquote official version of Sonic Hysteria from Team Temporical, there have actually been a few other attempts from fans to create their own fan games based on Nico's fan album. However, many of these also ended up getting canned later in development, but thankfully they do end up giving us an idea of what Hysteria could end up looking like, or at least playing like. So for now, all that we can really do is just wait and see what the future will bring, and hopefully we'll get a chance to play Hysteria sooner rather than later. And for those that do want to keep up with the project, the best way to do that is honestly to keep track of their Discord server, which of course I will link down in the description below. And I'm honestly ecstatic to see what Team Temporical has been working on for the Sonic Hysteria project. And I'm sure it's gonna blow us away. Well, to follow our last entry, we got another major 3D title in the works that goes by the name Sonic Calamity. This title is being created by Possum Queen Games, and though we don't have a demo currently, we do have a good bit of info on it. So with that in mind, Sonic Calamity is a physics-driven 3D fan game that combines elements and mechanics from the classic and adventure games. It rocks a beautiful comic book-based visual style, and is actually being developed in Unity with a custom framework. The game follows Sonic and Tails as they race to retrieve the Master Emerald from Eggman and stop him from activating his newest Doomsday mech, known as the Egg Calamity, which sounds pretty serious. This title is planning to feature 7 main story levels, 8 unlockable stages, 7 special stages, which will probably lead to Chaos Emeralds, and a hub world where you can explore and collect emblems and rings for unlockables, as well as the ability to replay previous stages and special stages, which, altogether, this sounds pretty ambitious for a fan title. Now, with all that in mind, as far as the game's current development status is concerned, we actually did get an update in March of 2024, which is to let everyone know that the project was alive and well. We also did get a few videos showcasing the project, and they look amazing, with a massive sprawling level, with tons of alternative routes to take and explore, that also takes full advantage of Sonic's speed and newest moveset. And this video alone gives me hopes for the future of the project. And I honestly believe that if Sonic Lumi does see full release, it'll be more than worth the wait. Well, we're hopping back into yet another Genesis-style fan game with some serious promise. Wow, there's a lot of these. And that game is Sonic Recharged. This title is being created by Spin-12, and it saw its last major demo release in 2022. This game takes place in a separate timeline / alternative universe, whichever you would prefer, shortly after the events of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, actually right after where Knuckles is left off in that game. Now currently, the demo that we have has a grand total of 2 acts to run through and 2 bosses to fight. But the biggest thing that this demo has is online multiplayer, meaning that you and your buds, well, can play together. Aside from this, the game also looks really good, with some amazing sprite work, great backgrounds, awesome effects, and a top-notch OST, which is all great. And when focusing on the OST specifically, the tracks are wondrous and have this awesome adventure-like tone, which is just a total vibe. Furthermore, gameplay is also great, with Sonic feeling fantastic to use, as we expected, and the level design is also fun, with a few alternative paths to explore, along with plenty of opportunities for players to run at high speeds. All in all, this is a fantastic fan game that's got some serious potential, and though we might not have a whole lot of updates on its current development, this demo is more than enough to keep me excited for the future of this project. Oh boy, y'all, we have a triple entry of 3 fan games that are actually all from the same team. And they're actually all styled as games for the Sega Saturn. And those titles are a remake of Sonic 3D Blast, a remake of Sonic Jam on PC, and finally, a game titled Sonic Saturn. All 3 of these games are being developed by White Feather Projects. And though we haven't gotten a demo on any of these games just yet, we have gotten a ton of footage, and it all looks super promising. With that in mind, let's tackle each title one by one. First off, the Sonic Jam Remake. This title seeks to, well, remake Sonic Jam, a title that released on the Sega Saturn back in 1997, and this was actually a collection of Sonic's classic lineup, along with a bunch of extra content. But that's not all, as Sonic Jam contained something extremely special, that being an extra mode called Sonic World, which plays Sonic in a big 3D space that allows you to run around and explore the whole area. And what's even cooler is that Sonic World is actually the Sonic Adventure beta that was originally being created for the Sega Saturn, before it switched development to the Sega Dreamcast. Now, Sonic World was really cool when it first came out, but White Feather wanted to take this game and make it even better, and that's where the remake comes in. This remake adds a whole bunch of stuff, like being able to collect the Chaos Emeralds to turn into Supersonic, having a higher frame rate, widescreen support, a Chow Garden, playable lost levels, a beta 2-player mode. There is so much here. If this game does reach full completion in its development, then this remake would literally become the definitive way to play and experience Sonic Jam. Now, with all that in mind, let's move on to our second title, that being the remake of Sonic 3D Blast. Now, first and foremost, for those who don't know, Sonic 3D Blast was an isometric title that released on the Sega Genesis and the Sega Saturn, where you explored large levels while collecting flickies and progressing through each stage. Now, I personally love 3D Blast. I have tons of great memories experiencing the isometric gameplay, and I've always adored it. But I've always wanted to see it receive a full-blown remake and to see it in an actual true 3D space. And thankfully, White Feather Projects is working on just that. And wow, the difference here is just wild! The remake has widescreen, multiple OST selections, multiple perspectives for gameplay, so you can play it like the OG title or like a true 3D game. The game has full 3D models, now with new textures and animations, along with the actual possible option of swapping to the old Genesis textures, which I definitely hope actually gets added, as well as using several elements from the Saturn version, like the loading screens and intro sequence, and it all looks so damn amazing! This, again, just like the Sonic Jam remake, could very well be the definitive way to play Sonic 3D Blast for the modern era. And I so badly want to get my hands on a playable demo. It looks so damn fun! Now, currently, all we've actually seen in this remake is the first major level, so there is still quite a bit left in the game to remake. And since we don't get too many updates on these projects, it might be a good bit before we see any more progress on this remake, but I am more than willing to wait, and I'm sure it's going to be hella worth it. And with all that said and done, that just leaves us one more title, and this is one that I am beyond ecstatic for. Sonic Saturn. This is a fully original Saturn Sonic game. Now, currently we don't have a whole lot in its current build, but I don't care! I'm adding it here whether you like it or not. That way more people know about it, because more people need to see this, and I need a full 3D Saturn title in my life! Currently, the last video that we actually have on Sonic Saturn, it shows off the pre-alpha 0.08 version, which shows us mainly just a test level and Sonic and his controls. But between the texture work and the animations, as well as the way Sonic seems to control, I am already so hyped to see this be fully implemented into a full-fledged title. And though there isn't a whole lot to talk about here, this is still super exciting to see. And knowing that a title like this is in development behind the scenes, it just gives me so much hope. And with that, that's actually all of them. And wow, that was a lot to go through. All these titles have so much going for them, and I'm so excited to see how they'll all turn out. So if you're a fan of the Sega Saturn and are like me and are disappointed that Sonic didn't get more love on that console, and you want more of that version of Sonic in your life, then you need to keep your eyes on White Feather and their games, because these are all on track to breathe some serious life back into Sonic on the Saturn. Alright, our next entry is one that I'm gonna have to break the rules on my list again to include, and it's gonna be a really short entry on top of that, but I wanted to include it here for its concept. And that game is Sonic CDX. This is an upcoming fan game being developed by, and I'm super sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher your name, Axonary, and this title aims to fully remake the entirety of the OG Sonic CD, which, for those that don't know, is a title that released on the Sega CD add-on for the Sega Genesis in 1993 that introduced Amy, Metal Sonic, and more, and is probably one of my favorite classic Sonic games of all time. With that in mind, CDX aims to add tons of new sprites and models, while adding additional and updated music, and other tons of creative changes, possibly to the story, or even the level design, which is awesome. But I have to confess, there isn't a whole lot on this title right now. We do have a good amount of screenshots that shows a lot of promise, and a beautiful logo, but besides from that, there actually isn't anything else released just yet at the moment on this project, not even gameplay. But since I adore CD so much, and since the screenshots look so fantastic, I wanted to have more people be aware of CDX and give it some serious recognition. So if you like CD and you've always wanted to see it get a full-blown major remake and update, then I would suggest keeping an eye on CDX, because it looks like it's going to have a whole lot in store for us, and I'm super excited to see it. Well, we're getting to our final two entries. And the first one up is one that I've actually been following for a good long while, and one that has had some serious changes over the years. And that title is Sonic 95 Scrambled Eggs, which now goes by the title Sonic Reality Check. This game is being created by Usage Dude and their team Sylvanite Digital, and this title has got some history behind it. Originally, this game was going to be a remake of Sonic 4, called Sonic 4 1995. That effectively is going to reimagine Sonic 4 as if it were to release in that year. However, this remake would then be turned into a reimagining of Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2's story. That would then be called Sonic Scrambled Eggs. And it came with beautiful backgrounds, sprite work, animation, solid music, multiple characters, solid level design, and great controls and physics, along with a fully animated 3D opening cutscene to showcase the story, where it was actually going to involve Eggget, a fan character based off of the upside down sprite from Eggman from Sonic Mania. No, that is not a joke. However, over time, history would then repeat itself again, as Sonic 95 Scrambled Eggs would eventually be reimagined again and turned into something even cooler, that being a game known as Sonic Reality Check. And hot damn, this is awesome! First off, Sonic is rocking a brand new fire model, and it looks so damn good. Like, Sega, for real, you need to take some darn notes here. They even made a whole cutscene with this new model to effectively showcase the type of quality we would get in Reality Check, and my lord is it marvelous! On top of that, the game shifted into an awesome 2.5D style game. And though we haven't gotten a look at the main levels just yet, the concept pieces that we have look super promising, and Sonic himself looks like he controls like a dream. Now, this game has been in development for quite some time, and it still looks like it's got a ways to go before it does fully release. In fact, Usage Dude is actually working on his very own IP now, which is amazing, but that does mean that Reality Check is going to have to take a bit of a back seat, though that is completely understandable. But honestly, with how dedicated Usage Dude and their team are, and how long this project has persevered through all the years, I honestly believe that this will reach full completion one day. I have no doubt about it. And if this does happen, then I truly believe that it will be known as one of the greatest Sonic fan games to ever be created. And I am beyond ecstatic to see the future of Sonic Reality Check. And now we are at our final entry. And the last game to send us off is an upcoming 3D title that will blow your socks off. And that game is Sonic Advance X. This right here is legit a Sonic Advance game in 3D and is being developed by Altair. And though we don't have a demo at the moment, we have a ton of info on its development. First off, this game has its very own custom framework and features a total of 10 separate characters, each with their own playstyle and abilities. And all these characters have some insane movement options. You have characters like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, but additional ones like Blaze and Shadow and a bunch more. And from what we've seen up to this point, they all have some insanely snappy and responsive controls. Furthermore, the game will also feature a variety of levels, some original and some that are returning from throughout Sonic's career. There are also plans to add additional challenges for specific characters, red rings you can collect, and a possible Chow-related side mode. Though the dev has confirmed that this Chow mode will not be the Chow Garden. There's also plans for an optional tag team mode like Sonic Advance 3, where two characters can play at once together, and there will even be a hub world that you can explore. There's even cutscenes that will be planned to help tell the story. And the story itself will actually take place right after the events of Sonic Rivals 2. So suffice it to say, there is a whole lot planned with Sonic Advance X. Now, over time, during this game's development, we have gotten tons of videos showcasing the characters and their insane movement, and it all looks just so good. We also have gotten a few sneak peeks at some possible levels that will be in the game, and they seem to have many routes you can take and give you tons of opportunities to just use the characters' movesets to the fullest. And with all that's been showed off so far for Advance X, I can only imagine how amazing this game will turn out to be. And just like the titles before it on this collection, this is yet another title that has the makings of a top-class Sonic game. That'll probably be as good, if not better, than the official titles. And though we might have to wait a good bit before we actually get to play it ourselves, I'm sure that the wait will be more than worth it. Well, congratulations on making it this far in the video. But before we wrap things up, I have one more surprise for all of you. That being a bonus segment. This portion is called the Extras and Updated Entries, and is dedicated to entries I actually stumbled across during the making of this video that I sadly didn't have time to fully include, but all deserve a mention nonetheless. So with that in mind, each entry will be divided into a mini segment, and we're going to wrap it through all of them. So strap it and get ready, because to start us off, we have the finished and canceled extras. Sonic Transitions. This is a game being created by PM13 and is a 2D Sonic experience that is actually based around the SAT-AM universe, which effectively gives us, well, a 2D SAT-AM Sonic game, which is awesome. Next up is Sonic Forces 2D, a game developed by Arizo Azul, and this game pretty much is, well, a 2D remake of Sonic Forces. Following that entry, we have Sonic & Knuckles 2. This is a game created by Joseph Waters that released in 2010, and it pretty much is actually a sequel to the original Sonic & Knuckles, which was the second half to Sonic 3. It's another 2D Sonic experience that feels great to play, that actually showcases Splash Hill Zone Act 1, that came from Sonic 4. Overall, it's a pretty solid game, though sadly we haven't had any more on its development for quite some time. Next up, we have the final demo for Sonic Adventure Emerald. This is a game that was actually being created by Team Survival, the same people who made Sonic Project Survival. And this pretty much is a 2D Sonic experience combining elements from the Advance and Boost games. It's actually a fair decent length with several stages to run through, and overall is a really solid experience. Now to follow that last entry up, we have Sonic Network Online. This is an online multiplayer game created by PVIC that pretty much is, well, an online 2D Sonic experience. Moving forward with that, we have Sonic Generations 2D. This is a, well, 2D remake of Sonic Generations, being created by Valve, and it shows some beautiful sprite work, great animations, and comes with the first stage for classic and modern Sonic being remade in this boost/modern classic Sonic style. Now, following that up, we have another 2D Sonic fan game known as Sonic NG. This game was created by Speed and saw its latest release in 2017, and, well, is another modern Sonic-style 2D Sonic game, and is pretty much an experiment in bringing the two major versions of Sonic together, being the classic and Dreamcast era. Now, moving on from that, next up we have Sonic 2.5. This is a game seeking to combine elements found in Sonic 2 and 3, and it's just an overall super cute and adorable style game, kind of similar to like a chibi art style, that is just a general fun game to play through. Now to follow that entry up, we actually have another game in a similar style, known as Pico Sonic. This game is being created by Komi and is a partial remake of Sonic 3 in Pico 8. And for those who don't know, Pico 8 is pretty much a 8-bit-like console. The game features you running around an adorable little world collecting Pico Chaos Emeralds to, well, beat the game. And that's all there pretty much is to it. It gives a cool little glimpse into the idea of a possible 8-bit Sonic and an alternative system. And overall, it's, well, adorable. Now, next up we have a game called Sonic Islands. This is a 3D Sonic fan game created by Steve Taylor, and it saw its latest release in Sage of 2018. And this game is, well, a 3D game in a massive open space that mainly is momentum focused. Now, the game isn't super long, it doesn't have a whole bunch in it, but if you actually go back to the previous demo release in 2018, there is a little more there. And it pretty much is very similar to Sonic Utopia. Now, to follow that entry up, we have one that has an insane reputation. That being the Sonic RPG series created by Midnight Marine, and it was a series of different Flash games telling a pretty in-depth story that was, well, an RPG. Now, the games do range in quality as this has been developed over a very long period of time, but from playing through episodes 1 to 10, you will see a massive increase of quality over time. And the game really does come to its fullest when it does hit episode 10, and it makes it more than worth playing through. Now, to follow up after that entry is actually another fan game with a pretty insane reputation, known as Eggman Hates Furries. Now, yes, the name is definitely a bit silly, but trust me, this is a pretty intense game. This title was created by Oddward, and it, well, is a massive, intensive boss rush. You'll be facing off against an array of well-designed and challenging boss fights that will push your skills to the absolute limit. And though the ending of the game might not be to everyone's taste, it is still more than worth playing through for the challenge alone. But be fair warned, if you do hop into this game, prepare to get your ass beat big time. Moving on from that, next up we have a framework known as the Bumper Engine version 2. The latest version of this framework is created by Balfit and saw its latest release in Sage of 2023, and is, well, a basic framework that other fan games can build off of. It's an awesome framework that has been the basis of many fan games over the years, and could very well be the basis of many more down the road. And it's very much worth the look, as currently the demo that showcases the Bumper Engine has got some cool levels you can actually run through, and it just feels amazing. Now, following that up, we actually have another pretty well-known framework, with its latest version being called Sonic Infinity Plus Colorful Combat. Now, the latest version of this framework was created by the Fizz Wiz and saw a release in Sage of 2021. And this is a beautiful framework that is mainly geared towards 3D boost Sonic gameplay. And in fact, several fan games have been made using this engine, with one of the most prominent ones being Sonic Omens. Next up, we have a game known as Knuckles Halloween Tale. This game was created by Nico, the same guy who made Chow Resort Island, as well as Sonic vs. Darkness. And this is pretty much a 2D fan game, mainly focusing on the gameplay found for Knuckles in SA1 and SA2, where you'll fly around a 2D version of Pumpkin Hill while collecting Chaos Shards. And it's pretty much just that. It's a fun little fan game that does have a little bit of replay value as these emeralds are actually randomized. And it's a pretty fun little game overall and a great game to play during the Halloween season. And it saw its latest release in 2019 via the Race Edition. And overall, it's just another solid game for Nico. Now, moving on from that, next up is another 3D Sonic fan game, known as Sonic Otherworld. This game was created by Yakuza Beluza, and it saw its latest release in Sage of 2020. And it's just another solid 3D Sonic experience, featuring you running through some small, well-designed levels. It's a fun little game with a very interesting style to it that won't take up too much of your time, but be a fun run nonetheless. Now, swapping off of that entry, next up is yet another 2D Sonic game known as Sonic Illusion. This game was created by Efluri Desperado, and it saw its latest release in Sage of 2021. This game is going to feature 5 playable characters with an array of new zones and bosses to take on, and the demo does a good job showcasing what was planned for this game, and it all looks pretty awesome. And it sets out to pretty much be a direct sequel to Sonic Mania. And with that finally brings us to our final entry for this mini segment. That being Sonic Flow 2. This is a 3D classic styled fan game being created by Vintru, and it saw its latest release in 2020. Now yes, this demo is fairly short, but is still a great fan game regardless. Not only is Sonic rocking a 3D version of his OVA art style, but the level design is fairly solid overall, and Sonic feels great to control and can blast through stages like nobody's business. The physics feel on point, the music is awesome, the presentation is top notch, and overall, this is just a really solid fan game. Though, sadly one that did end up getting cancelled. But even if that is the case, it is still a fan game that is worth a look, regardless of its current development status. And that was the final one for the finished and cancelled extras. And next up is actually the upcoming extras. These are games that are still in active development that all show some serious potential. So let's get right into it. First up, we have a Sonic 1 port to the PlayStation 1. This fan game is being created by Tiago SC. And yeah, it's pretty much a port of Sonic 1 to the PlayStation 1. It looks absolutely phenomenal first off, with some beautiful backgrounds, sprites, and sound effects, and overall gives a really decent uplift to Sonic 1. And I'm actually surprised that Sega hasn't made a version of Sonic 1 looking like this yet. Now, next up after that, we have Sonic 3 Chronicles. This is a fan game being developed by Funtex, and it saw its latest release during Sage of 2023. And this fan game is actually an alternative look at the events of Sonic 3, if Sonic were to actually run through the multiplayer competition stages. Now, the demo that we have currently features 3 full-fledged competition zones being made playable, along with unique boss fights. Overall, the game just looks and plays great, and it honestly feels like a true extension of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is, well, really cool. Now, moving off of that, next up we have a Sega Saturn homebrew game, known as Sonic Ring Worlds. This fan game was released by Shadow Jackal during Sage of 2020, and it's pretty much a fully original homebrew Sonic game on the Sega Saturn, based on the SA1 beta found in Sonic Jam in the Sonic World mode. Now currently, the demo isn't anything insane, mainly just showcasing a test room with Sonic's basic physics, but it still is pretty cool regardless, and the fact that it can run on actual hardware is very impressive. Now, it should be noted that this is just mainly a basic test level, and there isn't anything too insane about it just yet. However, we have seen footage of the game running with an actual level to explore, which is pretty cool. So though this project might not be super far along and there might not be anything major to show for it just yet, this does look like the start of an awesome project, and I really hope that Sonic Ring World does get further along in development. And to follow that entry up, we have our final entry for this mini segment, that being Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood Reimagined. Now, the original Sonic Chronicles is a fairly old and somewhat outdated RPG experience, and we haven't actually had a full-blown RPG Sonic game since the original Sonic Chronicles, which is a definite shame. But thankfully, the team actually behind this awesome little remake, known as Nocturne Studios, wants to bring Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood into the modern era, which is awesome. Now currently, they're mainly focusing on the UI and general framework of this RPG, which is awesome, though that does mean we don't have any main gameplay just yet. But so far, it all looks super clean and very promising. And in an odd way, this kind of is turning into a PC port of Sonic Chronicles, which, actually, funny enough, playing Sonic Chronicles on the PC natively would probably be one of the best ways to experience the game. And I'm really excited to see how Sonic Chronicles Reimagined turns out. And that is all the up-and-coming extras. So, with all that said, let's take on our final mini-segment. That being the updated extras. This section is for games previously included in the original Sonic Mega Fan Collection that actually got some brand new info. So, let's get right into it. And to start us off is actually, believe it or not, Sonic Rush 3D! This is a title I talked about during the Sonic Mega Fan Collection, and I ended that section talking about how the game was going on hiatus, and that we haven't heard anything for quite some time. Well, surprisingly enough, out of freaking nowhere, on March 22nd of 2024, we actually got to see the menus of Rush 3D, along with them announcing devlogs. So, that's pretty freaking insane, and thank God I am so glad this is back and alive. Now, following that up is actually an update on Sonic Momentum being created by Mr. Bane, showcasing a brand new cyberspace theme being Aquarium Park. It comes with an awesome vibing OST and a beautiful background, and it's just nice to know that the project is still alive and well, and that development is going on nicely. Now, to follow that entry, we have a new update on Sonic Test Labs. This game was being created by the Test Labs team, and pretty much features Sonic running from gun as they want to test his abilities in different gun facilities. But recently got an update on this game showcasing a brand new online multiplayer mode, which is perfect for Sonic Test Labs. It actually showcases several players facing off against each other in levels from Sonic Test Labs, and it's pretty much, well, a straightforward race between all of them, and that is such an awesome addition to this already awesome title. Following that up, we actually have an update on Project 32X from the developer known as Retro Dev. This is a fan project that seeks out to revive a lost Sonic game that was meant to be on the 32X and be fully 3D. That sadly ended up getting cancelled and turned into Sonic X-Treme. But Retro Developer has gone out of their way to create a, well, pretty damn good approximation of Sonic Mars, and it looks fantastic. Now, we actually got an update on the project on April 5th of 2024, showing that Sonic is now rocking his original 3D model, which is amazing to see. But this update is still pretty recent as of the recording of this video, so we actually don't have anything more than just the new updated look for Sonic. But regardless, this project is definitely shaping up to be the main way that us Sonic fans will probably ever get to experience this lost Sonic project. And finally, our last entry is actually on Sonic Horizons. This is an amazing fan game that has been inspired off of Sonic Frontiers that plays, looks, and runs beautifully, and is being created by Strix. And the latest update for this game actually came out on April 1st of 2024, that pretty much showcases a brand new addition to Sonic Horizons being Launch Tricks, that will play a different animation based on the angle of the slope. It's nothing too groundbreaking, though the concept is absolutely awesome, but it just shows that Sonic Horizons is very much alive and well. Also, on top of this, indirectly, this update does showcase a brand new UI in Sonic Horizons, which is awesome. And again, like I've stated in the previous video, and like I'll state again, and the times after that, Sonic Horizons is definitely shaping up to be a genuine competitor, and maybe even spiritual successor to Sonic Frontiers. And I can't wait to see more from this awesome project. And that was our final entry in this bonus segment. So, without further ado, let's wrap things up. And with that, we have finally reached the end of the Sonic Mega Fan Collection Plus. It is so crazy to see that there were so many more projects out there that I never talked about in my original video. That's what's so crazy about this community. The imagination, the passion, it's boundless and it's inspiring. But with all that said, just like the first video, as I'm sure you probably already guessed, I do have a surprise for those that made it all the way through. Down in the description below, you will find a massive Google Drive document compiling everything that we talked about today, that I have called the Sonic Mega Fan Collection Plus. Every fan game you've seen on this list will be in that document, including download links to fan games that I myself have personally reserved and uploaded to a Google Drive that you can also download for yourself. So if there's a fan game that you saw in this video that you want to go and check out and or support, you more than are able to do that by heading down the description below and checking out that massive Google document. And I really do hope you enjoy it, because I put a lot of effort and work into it to make it as good as it can be. And with all that said, guys, that does finally bring us to an end to this video. Thank you so much for joining me at this second look at Sonic's top fan games. It was a blast to explore all these amazing projects and fall in love with the work that's been done here. And what's even crazier is that there are still more fan games in development right now, and other events down the road that we can see even more fan games at, like Sage or CGS. So the best part about these fan games is that these aren't the only ones, and there will only be more as time goes on, which is just so exciting. But of course, guys, if you enjoy what you saw, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment, because your support is always effing amazing. And again, thank you so much for joining me with the Sonic Mega Fan Collection Plus. And with all that said, just signing out. I'll see you on the next one. Later.